or low-level maneuvers. The system uses an explosive charge to blow off the canopy, thrust the pilot clear of the aircraft, and deploy parachutes to stabilize the descent. All this brings us to the question as to what exactly caused this horrific crash. Joining me on the broadcast are Major General G.G. Dwivedi, Global and Strategic Defence Expert, Wing Commander Satyendra Duggal, former Indian Air Force officer, Major Muhammad Ali Shah, Defence Expert. I thank you all for joining us on this discussion. However, this is a very unfortunate incident that we are discussing. If I go across to Wing Commander Satyendra Duggal, sir, how do you preliminary look at this crash, your initial assessment of this crash that actually took place at the air show?
Yeah, it's very unfortunate that this air crash has taken place, and more unfortunate is the probably sad demise of the pilot there. And particularly it is sad as well because it has taken place during an air show and also on a foreign soil. Also coupled with a few facts that it has been produced by our Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, except of course the engine, which has come from outside. And as you rightly said, it is built as a light compact aircraft, and it has been built particularly or manufactured or put together particularly keeping in view the requirements of the Indian Air Force and about the local environment and about the requirements of the cross-border requirements. All those things have been put together. Okay, nevertheless, this thing has happened, but of course the Air Force will look forward and try and find out, plug the issues which has caused it. Of course, it may not be pertinent for me to say here that it's because of the pilot's negligence. Absolutely not. But some initial reports say, as you said, I must express my initial observations that he failed to recover the negative G turn. And there were initial reports about the oil leaks and all that, but I don't think that's correct. So this is what it is, and the exact facts will come out, and we should not, judge anything right now, and everything will come out during the court of inquiry, during the cross-examination of the people who have seen it, cross-examination of the material available on the ground, and things like that. So, and as you said, it's little more than a year that the second air crash has taken place. And I'm sure everything is a learning phase, but losing a trained person creates a lot of this thing. And particularly, it's an air show and we are looking for exporting the equipment and the parts of it. And it's not only an air show, it is also putting on show the technical capabilities of the indigenized, technical capabilities that we have produced or we are producing in HAL, of course, with the help of the DRDO and the other research agencies. They are all combined together and they put together a great effort. Of course, these things do happen, and even if it was a right now we are targeting or we are pinning that on HAL, but it could have happened with even the best manufacturers of the aircraft around the world. Not to say that the HAL is not the best manufacturer, but it could have happened. But the exact facts will come out of during this thing, and this is what I can say initially. It's not correct to further elaborate on it and suspect anything.
Right. And so, like you mentioned, this is at a very big air show that is going on. So, Major General G.G. Dwivedi, if I come across to you with this question, what do you think? How significant is this, incident or accident in the context of India actually showcasing its capabilities, it's showcasing its indigenized aircraft, it's showcasing its capabilities, and how do you see this? How significant is this crash that has come to the fore now?
Well, Shivani, first and foremost, it's very tragic that we have lost a ace pilot, because after all, the pilots who take part in such air shows are best of the best. And as per the Air Force report, that it had been a fatal accident. So therefore, I think I express a very heartfelt, condolences to the bereaved family, and also we share the moment of grief as a force or as people in uniform. No, it's definitely when you are participating in air show, which is a global air show, it's a stage where every country is showcasing its capability. Well, when you have an incident like this, no gainsaying that it's a definite setback, because after all, you are showcasing your product in the global arena, and the very many other players are there, and more so the Tejas was competing against top of the line global aircraft, and it was having a good response as well, because some of the countries had expressed to buy the Tejas, but unfortunately this instance would definitely set it back. But there are three, four things which I like to clarify. Firstly, accidents like this do happen. They are very unfortunate, but they can happen to the best of the aircraft, even aircraft of the capability of F-35. Even such top of the line aircraft have had such accident. The second point is that while the frame is ours, the other aeronautics are ours, but the engine is the American engine. This is GF404 engine, which is fitted on the Mark 1 and even on Mark 1A. Well, this engine is also very certified, and it is mechanically, I think, at the top of the line engine. Even the American aircraft had been, early aircraft have been powered by this. So therefore, as far the engine is concerned, I think it's very reliable engine. A pilot, of course, they are the best of the best, so it's very difficult at this stage to figure out what exactly was the reason. Was it a engine failure or was it a pilot error? Very difficult to figure out. But as you rightly asked the question, well, I think let's be candid that this would definitely have a setback on our, repo of our aircraft, and we'll have to prove it over the next future time that this was just an aberration, and the aircraft and the machinery is top of the line, and we are flying in fact two squadrons of Tejas Mark 1, and to that extent I think it is just an aberration, just an unfortunate, but then it had to happen, and it has not happened for good, because takes a repo, and also when you are on a global air show, it is definitely setback, but I am sure HAL, our aeronautical industry, will overcome it in the time to come. Shivani.
Right. Wing Commander Satyendra Dukkal, if I come back to you, when we are talking about Tejas, over the past many years, it's had a very good safety record. However, the past 2 years in 2024, we saw one crash, and today we are seeing this unfortunate crash. When we look at such type of crashes, what are the things that investigators actually, closely look at? The aspects of the Tejas design, what are the, investigators closely going to examine? The flight control or the engine performance, what are they going to look at?
First, you must understand that the background of the development of this aircraft. No, it has taken pretty long for the HAL, and I'm not talking in a criticism tone. I'm talking in a tone that it takes a lot of time to develop the indigenous machinery. So HAL has taken a lot of time to develop this, put together things, and ultimately the engine had to be brought from elsewhere outside. And whenever a crash like this happens, there are various angles which need to be investigated, and we cannot, immediately jump into the conclusion whether it is the machinery or the mechanical or the pilot or the environment. But yes, there are categories which need to be, put together. For example, the investigation definitely will be about the type of machinery or any mechanical failure or any drawbacks or anything about the speed, about the maneuverability and things like that, electronics and other things. Second, of course, will be the environment in which it was working or it was flying. Uh, uh, and the environment of abroad and who are maintaining it and who are the part of it, whether any foreign elements were there or any people who other than the Indian Air Force were part of the maintenance team. And third is the environment of that. What was the climate there? How was it? How was it being maintained? How was the climate in which it was being operated? So there are just about 3 or 4 things that I have just highlighted, but there is a huge list of SOP which will come into the picture once the investigation start. I'm sure that must have already started. They must have already started putting together things and first of all trying to find out the history of this aircraft right from the assembly line. And they must have already started freezing all the information about it and safeguarding it so that it can be shared with the investigators. And I'm sure the investigation will not only involve the Indian Air Force, the combat people. It will also involve the people who are part of the manufacturing team, people who are part of the putting together manufacturing team, mechanical team, and the research team. And with the invent of this AI, I'm sure the process of investigation will hasten. Yeah, this AI which has come in has become very important tool of finding out the faults and finding out and how to plug those faults, and that has really helped us. And there are not only about the AI which is put together in foreign soil, but the AI which is also put together by our own manufacturers. For example, the Hindustan Aeronautics, our DRDO, other research organizations which are there. While now they are developing the engines and they are developing the softwares, they are also developing the AI to support this, investigate it, and also give the feedback. So it is preliminary stage, but I'm sure the things must have already started getting in place, and people in right places must have taken note of it, and it will be taken very seriously. I must tell you, whenever we lose an aircraft, whenever we lose the human resource, it's a huge setback. But we need to immediately get over it, because that is also a process of the fighting force. That how do you immediately get over the lost equipment or the lost manpower? We cannot brood over it. We cannot live with that, and we need to walk forward, and we need to jump forward.
Absolutely, absolutely, sir. I think if I bring in also Brigadier Rajan Jamwal, who is a defense expert, who is also joining us on this broadcast. I thank you, sir. Appreciate your time. We are discussing here the initial assessment of this horrific crash, sir, that's coming out from Dubai. We saw that aircraft actually nose diving during a low-level maneuver.
Yeah, I mean, it's sad. Like it's been previously said, I mean, everybody mourns the loss of the pilot and the aircraft. However, I don't think so it will have any long-term effect, in the sense that this is, I think, only the second crash. The first was about more than 2 decades back, when it was just under trials or something. So it is the first, the crash of the aircraft, and anything could have gone wrong, which only a inquiry would be able to tell. But to the credit of the Tejas, I mean, the first of the crash, I mean, in 2 decades almost, this thing. Though this is the version which has crashed, it's an old version. Anything could have happened, I mean, right from, since these are fly-by-air, they are fly-by-air, by wire aircraft, mostly relying on AI and all, a lot of controls and all. So it could be a software glitch, it could be a hardware problem, something. I mean, too early to say what exactly went wrong. And I'm sure a court of inquiry, which already been ordered, would bring out all the facts, and it will be all encompassing. I mean, they will take all, right from the developers to the users to the aeronautical engineers. Everybody would be part of the inquiry, and they'll get to the bottom of it. But a sad day for the nation.
Absolutely. Major General G.D. Dwivedi, if I can rope you back into this discussion, we were just talking about how important it is for India and to showcase its capabilities. Do you think India now should accelerate or upgrade, or there should be engine modernization for the Tejas so that they can reassure the global market?
Our development of the aircraft and our aeronautical industry has been slow, because I remember that when we were young, that time India ventured upon, manufacturing HF-24 fighter. But after 3 decades, it didn't see the light of the day. Really speaking, it didn't make it to the world-class fighters. And even as far as Tejas is concerned, this has been a work in progress for the last over 3 decades. And the first aircraft only flew in 2001. And the HAL has a number of glitches and problems. And unfortunately, our pace of manufacturing integration has been slow. I think this is one area which requires to be addressed, and it is being addressed because now a number of private players have been zooped in for the AMCA development, like we have the Larsen and Tubro, Tatas, and others are coming in. So therefore, the world over, the aircraft or aeronautical industry is very high technology, and it has a very close cooperation between the civic industry or the between the civil manufacturing. Like if you take America, it is Lockheed Martin is there, the Boeing is there, the General Electronics are there. So our private players have to be brought in. Only then we will be able to accelerate the pace of progress and pace of manufacturing. And the second is the technology, because technology absorption also is very important. Like right now we are negotiating with FGF 414 engine, where we are getting about 80% technology from America. Or for the matter of saffron, they are offering 100% technology. So the point I'm trying to make is that aircraft manufacturing is very, very technical process. It requires number of collaborating number of players, that from metallurgy to aeronautical to frame to engine power, and then avionics, all that goes into all that goes into it. So therefore, I think we need to synergize firstly. There can't be any more monopoly of HAL. It has to be integration with the industry, which is very important. And I think some of the lessons have been learned, but we need to actually take it on a fast forward, accelerated mode. Please remember, we are already down to 29 squadron, whereas our minimum requires 42. And currently, if you give the current threat perception, possibly our requirement would be about 60 squadrons. So we are way behind, and it's very important. And I am happy that on your channel we are discussing the urgency. We are also discussing where the gaps and voids. But point is that India need to accelerate, and we need to synergize with the industry, with the academia, with the research, because today air power is the cutting edge, and any nation which want to dominate the air warfare, it has to have top of the line air power and domination airspace. So I think, this setback, I am sure, we'll get over very fast, but we got to integrate the largest systematic issues, that is the integration of all our potential industry, the users, and also the research and academia. Shivani.
Absolutely. In fact, if I can go across to Major Muhammad Ali Shah, who's also with us on this show. So I want to understand, do you think that this will raise concerns regarding the operational readiness of the Tejas aircraft? I mean, we are talking about a one-off incident here, but this has happened at a global level. This has happened at a air show where a lot of training goes in, where all the maneuvers that are happening, highly trained pilots actually take on such maneuvers, and this has happened at a global level. So do you think this will raise concerns regarding Tejas? Sir, if you can hear us. Major Muhammad Ali Shah, if you can hear us, this question is for you. We want to understand if this will raise concerns regarding Tejas's operational readiness, sir, given that this was at a global stage that this entire incident actually occurred, and they were highly trained pilots.
See, of course, there is no question about it that, firstly, it's a very, very sad incident that's happened. And imagine the plight, the family, the excitement of the pilot's family when they were going abroad to Dubai to fly on the Dubai air show. It's a very, very prestigious assignment. and that good news converted into bad news, into a disaster. So most certainly, they were very, very highly trained pilots, in fact. And when the video surfaced, I couldn't see the pilot ejecting or any parachute or anything. I was no, I couldn't see that. So in my heart of hearts, I was fearing. I hope the pilot is safe. But the best of aircraft also can crash. There have been F-16s which have crashed. In fact, there have been the best of best of aircraft which have crashed. So now the inquiry is going to reveal out details. The inquiry will there is going to be a board of inquiry, and the thing will surface in inquiry. What exactly could have gone wrong? What exactly could have happened? So it is a matter of grave concern. Here, yes, in 2015, since Tejas has been in operation, they had replaced, in fact, MiG-21 Bison aircraft, the vintage aircraft, which is retired. So most certainly, there are going to be a lot of questions which are going to be asked. And on a very, very big air show like the Dubai Air Show, this has happened. There were women, children, civilians. There were thousands of people watching. And this aircraft happened that time at a demonstration flight. So most certainly they are going to be questioned, and it's what happened. I'll give you a small example. When the Air India air crash took place a couple of months back, people had stopped flying by air for some time. They were fearing it. People had stopped booking flights by Air India. Slowly and gradually, they got over that fear. They're getting over that fear, in fact, I would say that. Similarly, the name of Tejas, when we are indigenous, we are getting into Indianization. Our defense minister has said we want India to not only just make for the India, but make for the world. We are sending defense equipment to other countries, other nations like Philippines and other nations. So most certainly, this is something which is the name of Tejas is going to take slightly a back seat, but I hope that doesn't last long. I hope we continue manufacturing our defense equipment. I hope we continue sending our equipment for exports, and the Hindustan Nautical Limited, the HUL, they are doing a great job, in fact. So by one incident, we cannot say that, okay, because I know the second incident of Tejas, which happened just shortly about a year back or so, and by the incident, we cannot say, but then at the same time, there are other Tejas also which are flying safely. And more people die in road accidents, by road, by rail, than in an air crash. But the expenditure on an aircraft is much, much more. The publicity given to it is much, much more. That's why people have this mental block of, okay, flying by air. Like, for example, I have a flight to catch in some time, and I would be going to Mau. But then, at the same time, people are asking, oh, is it safe now to fly? It is absolutely safe to fly. Through your channel, I would like to convey it to our viewers. It's absolutely safe to fly. An accident can happen anywhere. The best of aircrafts can meet with an accident. The best of cars can meet with an accident. So we cannot say that, oh, this has happened to Tejas aircraft, but we have to count the other. One bomb blast happens. Yes, it is a matter of concern, but we also have to see how the intelligence agencies foil the other 100 bomb blasts, which did not happen. Similarly, so it is a matter of distress for us that we have lost our braveheart pilot. In fact, so yes, let's hope that.
Right. Absolutely. If I can rope in Brigadier Ramwal again. So I want to understand what is next after this incident, because we were actually portraying or projecting our Tejas, indigenous Tejas over there, looking at exports to maybe the Philippines, Argentina. How are we going to recover from this? Because obviously it's a one-off event, it does not tarnish the entire image of the Tejas, but going forward, what is the plan of action?
You see, I mean, like I said earlier, out of the 2 squadrons we are operating of Tejas Mark 1, I mean, the one which crashed today is a Mark 1, this thing. And it was the second aircraft which had crashed. One had crashed last year over Jaisalmer, I think. The pilot had ejected safely. Unfortunately, this time the pilot could not eject safely, or maybe that he deliberately took the aircraft away from the spectator stands and ensured that there are no collateral casualties. Anyway, all that will come out in the court of inquiry. Now we are already on the way to make Mark II, which will be in production. Operational clearance has already been given, and the orders have already been placed on HAL for production of LCA Mark II. The one that crashed has been Mark I. Now, I do not think it will have much impact. Like it has been said before, accidents can take place anywhere, and even the best of the aircraft, the best of the vehicles, the best of equipment, even the rockets have failed. There have been casualties, but it did not stop. It did not stop. Even rockets have exploded while being launched. The show continues. So similarly, the show will continue here. I do not think on Mark II version there would be the production of Mark II version will not be affected. In fact, we should accelerate it now and bring more on HAL and all for quality control as well as timely deliveries, because these are the two concerns the forces have always had with the public sector, the quality control and timely deliveries. And I think they need to keep up. In a lot of ways, government is trying to address this issue, including by involving the private sector in a bigger way. The private sector in a bigger way, especially in manufacturing of sub-assemblies or some other parts. I'm sure all this would be going to the government's head, and very soon we will see a concrete plan emerging how LCA Mark II, which can be inducted. Yes, because LCA basically intended to replace the MiG fleet. Yes. Now, MiG fleet has also been, it has already been phased out of service. True. However, our LCAs are not yet ready. So we are lagging behind. This gap has to be filled, and sooner the better.
Right, that's the need of the hour, sir. I think acceleration in modernization of our aircraft, even if we follow an indigenous process. Unfortunately, I'm running out of time. I want to thank all my guests, Major General G.G. Dwivedi, Wing Commander Satinder Duggal, Major Muhammad Ali Shah and Brigadier Rajan Jamwal for joining us and participating in this discussion. With that, we have come to the end of this bulletin. We'll see you after this short break.
धरती आबा भगवान बिरसा मुंडा की 150वीं जयंती और झारखंड राज्य के 25 वर्ष पूरे होने के उपलक्ष्य में 15 से 16 नवंबर 2025 को राज्य भर में भव्य 2 दिवसीय महोत्सव मनाया गया, जिससे पूरे राज्य में उत्सव सा माहौल रहा। इस महोत्सव में पूरे राज्य में खुशी और उमंग की लहर दिखाई दी।
आज ये 25 साल का उत्सव जरूर है, लेकिन मेरा ये मानना है कि ये 25 साल नहीं, अगला 25 साल 2050 में ये झारखंड प्रदेश कैसा होगा, उसकी परिकल्पना हम कर रहे हैं।
अगर आप बनना चाहते हैं एंकर, या फिर आप में है जुनून एक तेज तर्रार न्यूज रिपोर्टर बनने का, तो आप ज्वाइन करें ITV और इंडिया न्यूज Newsx का मीडिया स्कूल। ITV नेक्स्ट मीडिया इंटरनेशनल स्कूल का कोर्स आपको मौका देता है देश के दिग्गज एंकर्स के साथ काम करने का। ITV नेक्स्ट मीडिया इंटरनेशनल स्कूल में आप बेहद नजदीकी से देख पाएंगे किस तरह से ITV नेटवर्क के दिग्गज पत्रकारों की टीम दिन रात खबरों पर काम करती है। इस कोर्स के दौरान आप सीखेंगे एंकरिंग की एक एक बारीकी उन एंकर्स के साथ जो देश को रखते हैं हर खबर से बाखबर। ITV नेक्स्ट मीडिया इंटरनेशनल स्कूल का ये कोर्स आपके एंकरिंग स्किल्स को करेगा इतना सशक्त, मजबूत, जिससे आप बनेंगे पत्रकारिता की दुनिया का वो चमकता चेहरा जो दुनिया देखेगी और पसंद करेगी।
Now it's not just the parents but the kids themselves are going and looking for partners.
Where you meet and where you vibe and who you feel like, is going to be your partner.
It could be a state ID. So they upload that. So at least the basics of their age, their first and last name and their gender. So at least that on And We Met, we are sure what we are getting.
You need to have a validation on the background check. You need to know what about his earnings. What we women want at now it's not just the parents but the kids themselves are going and looking for partners.
Where you meet and where you vibe and who you feel like, is going to be your partner.
It could be a state ID. So they upload that. So at least the basics of their age, their first and last name and their gender. So at least that on And We Met, we are sure what we are getting.
You need to have a validation on the background check. You need to know what about his earnings. What we women want at these times on Newsx. Now it's not just the parents but the kids themselves are going and looking for partners.
Where you meet and where you vibe and who you feel like, is going to be your partner.
It could be a state ID. So they upload that. So at least the basics of their age, their first and last name and their gender. So at least that on And We Met, we are sure what we are getting.
You need to have a validation on the background check. You need to know what about his earnings.
Welcome back, I'm Shivani Singh. A Tejas fighter jet has crashed during a flying demonstration at the Dubai Air Show today. The tragedy occurred at 2:10 p.m. local time at the Al Maktoum International Airport as crowds looked on. The IAF has confirmed the accident, revealing that the pilot sustained fatal injuries in the accident. The Indian Air Force has emphasized that it stands firmly with the bereaved family in this time of grief. It has also constituted a court of inquiry to ascertain the cause of the accident. On that note, let's take a look at the moment the tragedy struck.
Oh! Oh भाई साहब! Yo!
Alright, so what exactly is the Tejas fighter jet? The Tejas is India's indigenous light combat aircraft developed by Hindustan Aeronautics Limited and the Aeronautical Development Agency. The word Tejas in Sanskrit means brilliance or radiance, reflecting India's pride in this homegrown technology. It is a 4.5 generation single engine multi-role fighter jet designed to perform air defense, ground attack and reconnaissance missions. Its maiden test flight was in 2001 and it was officially inducted into the Indian Air Force in 2015. In terms of numbers, the Indian Air Force currently operates around 30 Tejas jets along with 6 trainer aircraft, with plans to expand the fleet to nearly 324 or 18 squadrons in the coming years. In fact, India recently approved the purchase of 97 new Tejas Mk-1A jets in a deal worth over 66,000 crore. Interestingly, the cost of a single Tejas jet is estimated at around rupees 680 crore. Now, a key feature of the jet is its Martin Baker 00 ejection seat. This is designed to allow pilots to eject safely even at zero altitude and zero speed, such as during takeoffs, landings or low-level maneuvers. The system uses an explosive charge to blow off the canopy, thrust the pilot clear of the aircraft and deploy parachutes to stabilize the descent. This feature has saved lives in past emergencies. Since its induction, the Tejas has held a relatively clean safety record, with only one crash reported till last year. In March 2024, a Tejas fighter went down in Rajasthan's Jaisalmer. However, the pilot ejected safely in that case. Therefore, the tragedy we have witnessed today marks only the second crash involving a Tejas aircraft in nearly 2 decades. It is also the second crash involving a Tejas aircraft in less than 2 years. Hence, investigators will now examine whether this was due to technical failure, sabotage or other factors. The Tejas program is a symbol of Bharat's Make in India initiative. The jet represents India's growing capabilities in defense manufacturing and technological self-reliance. However, India's today's incident is a moment of concern, especially as it occurred during a high-profile demonstration intended to showcase the aircraft's capabilities. Amid questions surrounding the cause of this accident, the Indian Air Force and HAL have promised a thorough investigation. To take this discussion forward, I am joined by Major General Shashi Asthana, Senior Defence Expert, former DG Infantry, Group Captain UK Devnath, former Indian Air Force Officer, Group Captain Dr. V.N. Jha, former Joint Director of the DRDO, former Indian Air Force Officer as well, Wing Commander S. Sudhakaran, former Indian Air Force Officer. If I go across to Major General Shashi Asthana, sir, a very horrific incident obviously we have witnessed in Dubai. But when we talk of the Tejas, we talk of its safety record and this is the only second crash that we have witnessed. In the first crash, the pilot was also safe. This over here, when we see those visuals, the aircraft actually nosedived and then crashed. Sir.
See, accidents can happen, and firstly, very sad to hear, and our condolences to the pilot and sympathies to the family. Certainly, this is, I would say, an incident which we would have liked to avoid, because air show is a very important display of the capabilities, indigenous capabilities which we have produced. Of course, the accident is at a wrong place, but notwithstanding that, accidents do occur, and even earlier we have seen that even in our air displays in the country, there have been a helicopter accident. A colleague of mine lost his son in one of these displays during the Independence Day. Sad to see that, but notwithstanding that, I am sure the investigations have been ordered, and these Tejas is a new machine, and whatever are the drawbacks in these machines, I am sure the concerned people will learn lessons from that, and there will be some improvements. This also brings me to a bigger point. The bigger point is everybody in all forums, especially of the Air Force, I have been harping on that we cannot wait for next 10-15 years. We don't know how the AMCA will shape up, and therefore we must buy the 5th generation aircraft, at least some of them now, and let all the AMCA and all the Tejas projects, let them carry on. It's okay, but without any obstruction to that, but we must bring the capabilities immediately, because our neighbor is bringing it much faster, and they are buying 5th generation aircraft from Chinese. So I think, yes, I agree that we must have the indigenous capability, but far too much of dependence. We need some proven aircrafts, at least for the immediate challenges, at least for next 5 to 10 years, because next 5 to 10 years the AMCA certainly cannot appear on the horizon. Back to you.
Right. Group Captain V.N. Jha, if I can come to you, sir. This entire, even when Major General Shashi Asthana was talking about how we do need to now, pull up our socks, we need to make sure that there are other manufacturers who are coming into this entire game. We do need to focus on indigenization, but we need other players as well in the market. Do you think that the optics of this entire, unfortunate accident that has taken place is bringing this to the discussion table?
Not at all, Shivani. Look, air shows are something where we go beyond the normal capabilities of the performance. And Tejas aircraft is fly-by-wire aircraft where you can easily exceed the limits. And what 2 clips I have seen of the video, in one clip I can see very well that it was a very sustained level flight, wherein during a slow roll, I can say, a relatively slow roll, something has gone wrong and the nose has gone down. And with that nose down, it has gone and crashed. And even maybe it is just my feeling, maybe just before hitting the ground, I have felt that the nose was coming up. So on the first, and there is no trail of any smoke, there is no anything else happening in the entire video. So I can say that the most probable reason, when we have done the test flying of the Tejas aircraft, I was here in Bangalore. I have seen many of the Tejas flight going on in the telemetry room. It is a very sturdy, very maneuverable aircraft, and almost about 300 odd parameters come on the telemetry. So, of course, investigation will be done. All those things will be looked at it. But what looks to me, possibly it has, it's an air show. You try to outmaneuver any other aircraft who have performed or who have demonstrated something. Yesterday itself, day first day, the same Tejas aircraft has performed brilliantly, and they are, the applauses all across the world. There are the videos, there are the YouTubes, there are many other things which has applauded the Tejas aircraft, its performance. Today, something has gone wrong. Apparently, as it looks, possibly a slight bit of mishandling has happened because during the roll, nose has just gone down and then thereafter it has not recovered. So these things are there, and also there are evidence of slight bit of instability in the flight. Flight was not in control, not maneuverable thereafter. We have seen some parameter of it. So on the first look, it is absolutely a bad luck for the HL. It must have been an HL aircraft has gone for the air show. It must be an HL aircraft. The pilot would have been either the HL pilot or the NFTC pilot. So one of them happened there. My heartfelt condolences for the life which has been lost. They are the very precious lives of Indian Air Force, of our nation. So my condolences go there. But then look, world across, wherever there is an air show, we have seen n number of accidents happening. And most of these accidents happen because every pilot, every nation having their own aircraft try to outmaneuver others. And in that outmaneuvering, there are very small margin of safety that they often keep it there. And I feel in this case also, possibly in the low roll, low speed handling, something has gone wrong. Possibly the aircraft has departed in the maybe stall or the spin conditions, and it has gone down. I don't think it is spin, but possibly stall or something has happened, and aircraft was thereafter unrecoverable. So nothing wrong with the aircraft at all. I have seen this aircraft. I've been part of some of the indigenous system that has been added into it. So I can only say it's a bad luck for HAL, for India, that this new aircraft has gone into the crash. This is the second crash, all right. But look, I again re-emphasize, it's the fly-by-wire aircraft where you can, you can go beyond the performance capability of it. You can do anything that you feel around. It is not like those Hunters or even MiG-21 was an unforgiving aircraft, unforgiving aircraft. This, you deliberately can outmaneuver or outperform or go beyond the capability of the aircraft. So bad luck, my heartfelt condolence. And I hope subsequently everything is looked after in the proper way.
Right. Wing Commander S. Sudhakaran, if I can come back to you and rope you into this discussion. We have been discussing, when this actual incident actually came to light, we have been discussing how the Tejas has that 0-0 ejection facility. But when such an incident actually takes place, what are the systems on the Tejas that are the most stressed during such high G aerobatic maneuvers? Because we are looking at the pilot couldn't eject over here.
I didn't get your question, what you're trying to ask.
So what are the systems on Tejas that are the most stressed when doing such maneuvers?
See, it is very difficult to call one system out. Aircraft is the complete package. Other than the non-critical systems are all part of the systems. Be it the control surfaces, be it the engines, be it the fly-by-wire systems. Everything plays a crucial role. Now, if you ask me as part of one single maneuver, what part of the system, it doesn't work like that.
Alright, so how does the Indian Air Force actually evaluate this and then mitigate risk going forward, sir?
No, these things will come when post the black box is recovered. There will be an in-depth study that will be carried out on all aspects. What were the flight parameters? What was the radar parameters at that point of time? What was the cockpit voice recorder? What were the last few conversations that the pilot had? What were the actions? Every action of the pilot is in fact recorded. So all these things are, studied step by step, put it across to a simulator, look at, how the flight behaves, and then the conjectures are drawn from there. So the investigation goal is first to understand what is the primary cause of the crash. We can sit and speculate here, but then It has to be done in a stepwise manner, keeping all possibilities alive. The flight envelope at the time of accident, we have a footage. Most of the aircraft accidents don't give you this kind of a footage because this being an air show, we have a footage, so we very clearly knew what exactly happened at what point of time. Because right now we are only seeing some 10 to 15 seconds of the aircraft, but the complete footage right from its takeoff till the time this particular accident has happened, what was the sequence of action, how did it happen, the complete flight envelope at the time of incident has to be studied in depth. The engine status, which includes the RPM, the engine thrust, the EGT status, all these things have to be looked at. The flight control and the system behavior, we have to look at if there was a failure of the control surfaces or anything of that sort, whether something got locked, which looks very highly unlikely now, but then you can't rule that part as well. Then what were the pilot inputs? Was there a pilot-induced error, or was the pilot absolutely in his full consciousness? That needs to be understood. Then environmental factors come into play. Sometimes they get disoriented, in a jiffy, and before they get back their sense of orientation, these low-level maneuvers are very, very unpardonable maneuvers. And the complete maintenance history and the pre-flight check status as to in what condition was this allowed to fly, that also is checked. And then did it get the right kind of clearance at the right time? And then after that, we will be looking at the retrieval of the data and evidence part, which will include the FDR part, the CVR part, the cockpit voice recorder, as I already told you, the telemetry logs that are being constantly sent to the ground station. Of course, the video footage, we will probably see multiple other angles of video footage because there are a large number of people who are there. And these days, everybody carries a mobile phone, so we may get some interesting angles which could throw more lights, the radar tracks, the ATC logs, the maintenance logs, the engine health monitoring system, and the pilot briefing notes. So there are so many things that we need to assess in, and unless and until we go through these monumental records in depth, we will never be able to ascertain as to why things happen the way it has happened, because aircraft is a very, very complex platform.
All right. So if I can bring in Group Captain UK Devnath, he's also joined us on this broadcast. Unfortunately, I am running out of time, but if I want to get your initial assessment about this entire unfortunate accident that has taken place, and secondly, how much of a concern should this be for our indigenization program, for our Make in India program? Do you also think, like our other panelists, that it is time that India it should push its Make in India program, but it should look at other partners as well, because we do see a lack in modern safe aircraft, sir?
Shivani, let me tell you, Tejas is a highly reliable fighter aircraft. Each system, whether it is pneumatic system, hydraulic system, electrical system, electronics, or its radar or weapon delivery systems, safety equipment, parachute, ejection system, each system is best in the world. Presently, what I want to tell through your channels to all the viewers, that the aircraft is absolutely fit and fine. There is absolutely no reason to have any doubt about its technical parameters. Yes, did this accident take place due to some, I will not say pilot error, but see, when the pilot is maneuvering so close to the ground, 1 second misjudgment, error of judgment may lead to such accident. It appears that after detailed court of inquiry, we will establish the technical reason, but also it appears that the aircraft was absolutely fit for flying till last moment from its behavioral parameters. Will it bring down confidence in Tejas? What happens, certain sentiments are there. Many African countries, Latin American countries, Southeast countries, Vietnam, Malaysia have shown interest in this Tejas fighter Viman. Now they will definitely have a second look. But I am very sure that we will take them to HAL, and Indian Air Force again will show them that the aircraft is fit, absolutely perfect as far as technical parameters are concerned. Yes.
All right. Major General Shashi Asthana, a quick last word on what should we look at going forward from this unfortunate accident. Major General Shashi Asthana.
The accidents are part of flying, and as was mentioned, there is no doubt that the inquiry only will be able to tell us as to what actually happened. But notwithstanding that, I think we should have full confidence in our machines. The machines are good. Sometimes, yes, things can go wrong, but I don't think there is any problem with the machine. So I'm sure the reputation also will pick up once we have some more data and some more aircraft fly, because Tejas is a new aircraft, and all aircrafts in the world, they had their hits and misses. So I don't think we should be worrying too much as far as the reputation of Tejas is concerned, but certainly we feel sad for the pilot.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us. I want to thank all my other panelists also who joined us on this broadcast. We're slipping into a short break now.
धरती आबा भगवान बिरसा मुंडा की 150वीं जयंती और झारखंड राज्य के 25 वर्ष पूरे होने के उपलक्ष्य में 15 से 16 नवंबर 2025 को राज्य भर में भव्य 2 दिवसीय महोत्सव मनाया गया, जिससे पूरे राज्य में उत्सव सा माहौल रहा। के इस महोत्सव में पूरे राज्य में खुशी और उमंग की लहर दिखाई दी।
आज ये 25 साल का उत्सव जरूर है, लेकिन मेरा ये मानना है कि ये 25 साल नहीं, अगला 25 साल 2050 में ये झारखंड प्रदेश कैसा होगा, उसकी परिकल्पना हम कर रहे हैं।
अगर आप बनना चाहते हैं एंकर या फिर आप में है जुनून एक तेज तर्रार न्यूज रिपोर्टर बनने का, तो आप ज्वाइन करें ITV और इंडिया न्यूज़ का मीडिया स्कूल। ITV नेक्स्ट मीडिया इंटरनेशनल स्कूल का कोर्स आपको मौका देता है देश के दिग्गज एंकर्स के साथ काम करने का। ITV नेक्स्ट मीडिया इंटरनेशनल स्कूल में आप बेहद नजदीकी से देख पाएंगे किस तरह से ITV नेटवर्क के दिग्गज पत्रकारों की टीम दिन रात खबरों पर काम करती है। इस कोर्स के दौरान आप सीखेंगे एंकरिंग की एक एक बारीकी उन एंकर्स के साथ जो देश को रखते हैं हर खबर से बाखबर। ITV नेक्स्ट मीडिया इंटरनेशनल स्कूल का ये कोर्स आपके एंकरिंग स्किल्स को करेगा इतना सशक्त, मजबूत, जिससे आप बनेंगे पत्रकारिता की दुनिया का वो चमकता चेहरा जो दुनिया देखेगी और पसंद करेगी।
On the rise, सुन ले आसमां, डबल इंजन का ये मिशन महान। 2047 तक हम न रुकेंगे, 6 ट्रिलियन का ड्रीम पूरा करेंगे। मथुरा की गलियों में गूंजे है राधा, अयोध्या में दूर हुई मंदिर की बाधा, काशी प्रयागराज की गोल्डन चमक, यूपी सरकार की गूंजे धमक। सड़कों पर फर्राटा फिक्रलेस बिल्कुल बिंदास, एक्सप्रेस वे पर साए साए पूरा विश्वास। विकसित यूपी की बढ़ गई प्यास, 2047 का ये विजन बहुत खास। माफिया का दी एंड, फियर गॉन, योगी राज में लॉ एंड ऑर्डर हुआ स्ट्रॉन्ग। बेखौफ घूमे जनता, गुंडों पर मार, नया यूपी तोड़ रहा पुरानी दीवार। यूपी ऑन द राइज, सुन ले आसमां, डबल इंजन का ये मिशन महान। 2047 तक हम न रुकेंगे, 6 ट्रिलियन का ड्रीम पूरा करेंगे।
Now it's not just the parents but the kids themselves are going and looking for partners.
Where you meet and where you vibe and who you feel like, is going to be your partner.
It could be a state ID. So they upload that. So at least the basics of their age, their first and last name and their gender. So at least that on ANVIMET, we are sure what we are getting.
You need to have a validation on the background check. You need to know what about his earnings. What we women want at
मेहनत और समर्पण के प्रतीक अन्नदाताओं को डबल इंजन सरकार ने दी है नई पहचान। कर्मयोगी सरकार ने किया है वो दमदार काम जो दशकों तक था सिर्फ सपना। उत्कर्ष के इन 8 वर्षों में गन्ना किसानों को किया गया है रिकॉर्ड 2,90,000 करोड़ रुपए से अधिक गन्ना मूल्य का भुगतान। वर्ष 2007 से 2017 तक हुए भुगतान से यह 1,48,000 करोड़ रुपए है अधिक। माननीय मुख्यमंत्री योगी आदित्यनाथ के नेतृत्व में पारदर्शिता और तकनीक से जुड़ी नई व्यवस्था ने बदली है गन्ना किसानों की तकदीर। वर्ष 2017 से अब तक 4 बार बढ़ाया गया है गन्ना समर्थन मूल्य। गन्ना पेराई सत्र 2025-26 में गन्ना किसानों को होगा 3,000 करोड़ रुपए से अधिक का अतिरिक्त लाभ। नई चीनी मिलें और बढ़ी क्रशिंग क्षमता ने असल मायनों में गन्ने की फसल को बनाया है ग्रीन गोल्ड। काम दमदार, डबल इंजन सरकार।
now it's not just the parents but the kids themselves are going and looking for partners.
Where you meet and where you vibe and who you feel like is going to be your partner.
It could be a state ID, so they upload that. So at least the basics of their age, their first and last name, and their gender. So at least that on ANVIMET, we are sure what we are getting.
You need to have a validation on the background check. You need to know what about his earnings. What we women want at now it's not just the parents but the kids themselves are going and looking for partners.
Where you meet and where you vibe and who you feel like is going to be your partner.
It could be a state ID, so they upload that. So at least the basics of their age, their first and last name, and their gender. So at least that on ANVIMET, we are sure what we are getting.
You need to have a validation on the background check. You need to know what about his earnings.
What we women want at these times on Newsx.
Now it's not just the parents but the kids themselves are going and looking for partners.
Where you meet and where you vibe and who you feel like is going to be your partner.
It could be a state ID, so they upload that. So at least the basics of their age, their first and last name, and their gender. So at least that on and we met. We are sure what we are getting.
You need to have a validation on the background check. You need to know what about his earnings.
Watch We Women Want.
Hello and welcome. You're watching Newsx, a deep dive with me, Vineet Malhotra. What should have been a routine school morning turned tragic for a 16-year-old Shaurya Patil's family. The student jumped from the platform of Rajendra Nagar metro station onto the main road on Tuesday around 2:30 p.m. Police immediately reached the spot and he was rushed to the hospital where he was declared dead. Shaurya was usually driven to school and back, but on that day he left the campus through the back gate and went on to the metro station. A shocking crowd called the police, who found the 16-year-old boy's school bag with what appeared to be a handwritten suicide note. Earlier this week, one of the teachers told him that they will call his parents and issue a transfer certificate. This case has revealed a disturbing pattern of harassment, ignored complaints and systemic lapses at Delhi's St. Columbus School. Shaurya Patil, a class 10 student of St. Columbus School, a leading private school in Delhi, was allegedly mocked and ill-treated by his teachers for a year. The last straw was the threat of expulsion after his parents complained to the school. The child left behind a note blaming his school teachers of harassment. He wrote that his last wish was that no student should be treated the way he was, and said that the teachers he named in the note must be punished. In it, he wrote, "The school staff said so much that I had to do it. My last wish is that action be taken against them so that no other student does what I did. I'm sorry, but the teachers did this to me." He also expressed apologies to his family and requested that his organs be donated to those in need. In the court, he also apologized to his family repeatedly. "Sorry, mummy, I broke your heart many times and I am doing it for the last time. This is how the teachers in the school are. What do I say?" And according to Shaurya's father, Pradeep Patil, his son was scolded and publicly humiliated on the day he took his life, and after he fell during a dance practice on stage. A shattered Pradeep Patil said his son had complained about the ill treatment for a year. Pradeep Patil also alleged his son had been threatened by a teacher for 4 days. He had been told his parents should be summoned and he would be expelled. The boy's father, 48, who runs a business in Karol Bagh, said his wife is a homemaker and his oldest son a college student in South Delhi. He said that the teenager had been studying at the same school since class 2nd. And according to him, the teachers allegedly kept pressuring the boy to score better marks, and the child repeatedly told them he was trying. The father said that the family had decided to shift him to another school after class 10th, and his father said, "We asked him to continue till the board exams because the school has discretion over 20 internal marks." He alleged that on Tuesday his son collapsed at school, but his teacher told him he was faking it. When the boy insisted that he had fainted and began crying, the teacher allegedly dismissed that as fake too. This incident is described in the note recovered by the police. A classmate of the student corroborated with whatever he had written in the 1.5-page note in his bag, saying that the boy was indeed being bullied by the teachers. When Shaurya broke down on stage, a teacher allegedly told him, "Cry as much as you want, I don't care." Shaurya's friends and classmates said he had gone through a tough time in the last 5 months. Parents, students and alumni said that the school's counselors exist only on paper and do not feel like a safe space. Former students alleged a pick and point culture where certain children were repeatedly singled out. Following the incident, the Delhi police registered an FIR against 4 teachers who have been suspended. The suspension order instructed them to stay available for official communication and barred them from visiting the school or interacting with students, staff or parents without written permission. And according to the FIR filed in the case, Shaurya's purported suicide note blamed 4 teachers. Following this, a case was registered against the concerned school and the staffers under section 107, which is abetment to suicide, and 3, which is common intention of criminal act of the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. Other students of the school alleged that parents are called to the school over minor issues, and meanwhile the Directorate of Education under the Delhi government had formed a 5-member committee to probe the incident, chaired by Joint Director Harshit Jain. The committee will submit its report within 3 days. And after the recent student suicide case in Delhi St. Columbus, the Education Minister Ashish Sood has ordered a comprehensive review of the mental health practices being followed across all schools in the national capital. Delhi government has also started to write to schools to check whether CBSE's prescribed mental health standards are being properly implemented. Sood has also mentioned that there will be full government support extended to any school that requires help in strengthening its mental health framework. But is this enough? Let's talk about this with Dr. Bhavna Barmi, clinical psychologist. Dr. Bhavna, appreciate you taking out the time and speaking with us. Well, this is absolutely unbelievable what has happened. Everybody knows of St. Columba's. It's a good school. It's a convent school. And also, to apprise our viewers, it's the same school that Shah Rukh Khan went to. It's the same school a number of prominent leaders and corporate leaders in the past and present have attended. What do you make of this case, and do you think this also sheds a light? It puts a prism on a lot of this harassment culture which does not get exposed until something dramatic like this happens.
It's truly absolutely shocking and very, very unfortunate. And what I would like to start by saying is that any suicides, especially student suicides, usually happen due to a combination of psychological, social, academic and environmental pressures. And it is rarely caused by one single event. So one needs to be very, very sensitive, because when somebody comes to this level, it results from multiple stressors and pressures building up over time. And when these pressures combine, the student, the child begins to feel hopeless, helpless, trapped, and unheard, which can ultimately push them towards such extreme decisions. Again, I want to bring to the point that emotional hurt from humiliation, especially from people who the younger generation, the students, look up to, like teachers, like parental figures, when they mock, when they insult, when they shame, especially in front of others, whether it is peers or family members, it has an intense damaging impact on self-esteem. Public humiliation is actually unbearable for adolescents, and they may start believing that they are not good enough, and thereby they start getting a loss of self-worth. So things like humiliation, mocking, or constant scolding slowly destroys a student's confidence, and they start believing, I am a disappointment. I can never improve. I am not good enough. And when self-worth collapses...
But Dr. Bhavna, aren't there symptoms of this harassment that can be picked up by the family or the parents? Aren't there symptoms that can warn a parent that something like this is happening, so that such a situation, such an incident is avoided altogether?
Absolutely. See, we can see these symptoms in 4 main zones. One is the somatic symptoms. When you see that your child at home is not sleeping well, is not eating well, or is having constant aches and pains and complaints of procrastination in school, it is a signal. When there is sudden silence, it is a signal. When the child loses a loss of interest, that means earlier the student was looking forward to certain pleasurable activities, hobbies, meeting up with friends, meeting up with relatives, meeting up and spending time with family. When there is a loss of interest, even in pleasurable activities or routine activities that they were doing before, it is another signal. The fear of going to school is the alarm. When they say, I don't want to go to school, I am a failure, I am feeling disappointed, I can't do this kind of a negative thought process, which either can come out as an externalization of stress in terms of anger, irritability, short-term, or what would you say, displacement of anger, or when it comes out in the form of internalization of stress, like crying, feeling sad, apathy. All these are 4 main dimensions where we can notice the warning signals, and definitely early intervention saves life. So it is very, very important to create a emotionally safe home and an emotionally safe classroom where all these kinds of things don't end up into trauma. Very important.
All right, ma'am, appreciate you joining us. Thank you so much for your thoughts and your perspective. We take a short break on that note. Be right back.
धरती आबा भगवान बिरसा मुंडा की 150वीं जयंती और झारखंड राज्य के 25 वर्ष पूरे होने के उपलक्ष्य में 15 से 16 नवंबर 2025 को राज्य भर में भव्य 2 दिवसीय महोत्सव मनाया गया, जिससे पूरे राज्य में उत्सव सा माहौल रहा। इस महोत्सव में पूरे राज्य में खुशी और उमंग की लहर दिखाई दी।
आज ये 25 साल का उत्सव जरूर है, लेकिन मेरा ये मानना है कि 25 साल नहीं, अगला 25 साल 2050 में ये झारखंड प्रदेश कैसा होगा, उसकी परिकल्पना हम कर रहे हैं।
अगर आप बनना चाहते हैं एंकर या फिर आप में है जुनून एक तेज तर्रार न्यूज रिपोर्टर बनने का, तो आप ज्वाइन करें ITV और इंडिया न्यूज़ का मीडिया स्कूल। ITV नेक्स्ट मीडिया इंटरनेशनल स्कूल का कोर्स आपको मौका देता है देश के दिग्गज एंकर्स के साथ काम करने का। ITV नेक्स्ट मीडिया इंटरनेशनल स्कूल में आप बेहद नजदीकी से देख पाएंगे किस तरह से ITV नेटवर्क के दिग्गज पत्रकारों की टीम दिन रात खबरों पर काम करती है। इस कोर्स के दौरान आप सीखेंगे एंकरिंग की एक एक बारीकी उन एंकर्स के साथ जो देश को रखते हैं हर खबर से।
Hello and welcome. You're watching Newsx Deep Dive with me, Vineet Malhotra. After US President Donald Trump's efforts to broker a peace deal in Gaza, his administration quietly began working on a similar proposal for the protracted war between Russia and Ukraine. The detailed 28-point proposal has reportedly been developed by Washington and Moscow and formally presented by the United States. The draft peace plan emerged after Trump's special envoy to the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, and key Putin aide and Russian envoy, Kirill Dmitriev, spent 3 days together in Miami. According to a U.S. official, Witkoff, who has been in close contact with Russian envoy, spearheaded the plan's development. Witkoff and Dmitriev have struck up a close diplomatic rapport as regular counterparts since the start of Trump's second presidency. Now, while the Witkoff-Dmitriev draft plan aims at rapidly ending the 4-year-long war between Russia and Ukraine, the proposal has also sparked concerns in Europe over its Moscow slant. So what is this 28-point plan that has now been presented in Kyiv? Well, the White House has pushed back on claims that Ukraine was not involved in the drafting of this plan, while the plan's provisions have received a carefully diplomatic response from Kyiv. So let's dive into the United States proposal and what's it all about. Well, the detailed 28-pointer begins by affirming that Ukraine's sovereignty will be confirmed under the agreement. It also affirms that a comprehensive non-aggression agreement will be concluded between Russia, Ukraine and Europe, under which all ambiguities of the last 30 years will be considered settled. Following the agreement, it is expected that Russia will not invade neighboring countries and the NATO will not expand further. The United States will also mediate dialogue between Russia and NATO to resolve all security issues and create conditions for de-escalation. The US has also laid down that Ukraine will receive reliable security guarantees. However, the size of the Ukrainian armed forces will be limited to 600,000 personnel. The peace plan also takes a strong stance against Ukraine's admission into the NATO by asking Ukraine to enshrine in its constitution that it will not join NATO. The plan also states that NATO should agree to include in its statutes a provision that Ukraine will not be admitted in the future. Furthermore, NATO should agree not to station its troops in Ukraine. The peace plan also lays down provisions for the European Union by stating that European fighter jets will be stationed in Poland. The peace plan makes provisions for a US guarantee. Under this, the US will receive compensation for the guarantee. However, if Ukraine invades Russia, it will lose the said guarantee. Additionally, if Russia invades Ukraine, in addition to a decisive coordinated military response, all global sanctions will be reinstated and the recognition of the new territory and all other benefits of this deal will be revoked. Alongside this, if Ukraine launches a missile at Moscow or St. Petersburg without cause, the security guarantee will be deemed invalid. While pushing against NATO membership, the plan deems that Ukraine be eligible for EU membership and receive short-term preferential access to the European market. A powerful global package of measures to rebuild Ukraine is also written down into the plan. Under this, there will be the creation of a Ukraine Development Fund to invest in fast-growing industries, including technology, data centers, and artificial intelligence. The United States will cooperate with Ukraine to jointly rebuild, develop, modernize, and operate Ukraine's gas infrastructure, including pipelines and storage facilities. There will be joint efforts to rehabilitate war-affected areas. The package will also involve infrastructure development for Ukraine as well as extraction of minerals and natural resources. The World Bank will also develop a special financing package to accelerate these efforts. As for Russia, the plan states that the country will be reintegrated into the global economy and the lifting of sanctions will be discussed and agreed upon in stages and on a case-by-case basis. The United States will also enter into a long-term economic cooperation agreement with Russia for mutual development in the areas of energy, natural resources, infrastructure, and other mutually beneficial corporate opportunities. Russia will also be invited to rejoin the G8. Laying down specifics for frozen funds, the plan states that they will be used as follows. $100 billion in frozen Russian assets will be invested in US-led efforts to rebuild and invest in Ukraine. The US will receive 50% of the profits from this venture, while Europe will add $100 billion to increase the amount of investment available for Ukraine's reconstruction. European funds will also be unfrozen. Meanwhile, the remainder of the frozen Russian funds will be invested in a separate US-Russian investment vehicle that will implement joint projects in specific areas. This fund will be aimed at strengthening relations and increasing common interests to create a strong incentive not to return to conflict. The United States also affirms a joint American-Russian working group on security issues to be established to promote and ensure compliance with all provisions of this agreement. The US-led plan also asks Russia to enshrine in law its policy of non-aggression towards Europe and Ukraine. The United States and Russia will also agree to extend the validity of treaties on the non-proliferation and control of nuclear weapons. Parallelly, Ukraine agrees to be a non-nuclear state in accordance with the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons. And as per the agreement, the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant will be launched under the supervision of the IAEA, and the electricity produced by it will be distributed equally between Russia and Ukraine. Both Russia and Ukraine will also undertake to implement educational programs in schools and society aimed at promoting understanding and tolerance of different cultures and eliminating racism and prejudice. With regards to the territorial disputes, the peace plan states that Crimea, Luhansk and Donetsk will be recognized as de facto Russian, including by the United States. Meanwhile, Kherson and Zaporizhzhia will be frozen, which will mean de facto recognition along the line of contact. Russia will also relinquish other agreed territories that it controls outside the 5 regions, and furthermore, Ukrainian forces will withdraw from the part of Donetsk oblast that they currently control, and this withdrawal zone will be considered a neutral, demilitarized buffer zone, internationally recognized as territory belonging to the Russian Federation. However, Russian forces will not enter this demilitarized zone after agreeing on future territorial arrangements. Both the Russian Federation and Ukraine will undertake not to change these arrangements by force, and any security guarantees will not apply in the event of a breach of this commitment. The agreement will also mean that Russia will not prevent Ukraine from using the Dnieper River for commercial activities, and agreements will be reached on the free transport of grain across the Black Sea. A humanitarian committee will also be established to resolve outstanding issues such as all remaining prisoners and bodies being exchanged on an all-for-all basis, all civilian detainees and hostages being returned, including children. A family reunification program will be implemented and measures will be taken to alleviate the suffering of the victims of the conflict. The United States-led plan also lays down the Ukrainian will hold elections in 100 days following the signing of the agreement. All parties involved in this conflict will receive full amnesty for their actions during the war and agree not to make any claims or consider any complaints in the future. This peace agreement will be legally binding, and its implementation will be monitored and guaranteed by the Peace Council, headed by President Donald Trump. Sanctions will also be imposed for violations, and finally, once all parties agree to this memorandum, the ceasefire will take effect immediately after both sides retreat to agreed points to begin implementation of the agreement. All right. Well, the House has issued an official statement asserting that the plan has been in quiet development for the past month and is good for both Russia and Ukraine. Listen in to White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt and what she said.
Special Envoy Witkoff, that Marco Rubio have been working on a plan quietly for about the last month. They've been engaging with both sides, Russia and Ukraine, equally to understand what these countries would commit to in order to see a lasting and durable peace. That's how you get to a peace negotiation, right? That's how it worked with Israel, with respect to Israel and Gaza and all of the Arab countries in the Middle East. That's how we accomplished that historic agreement, which the UN, by the way, voted to commit to and accept this week, which was a huge...
All right, Dr. Rajan Kochar, senior defense expert, is joining us on the broadcast to talk more about this. General Kochar, while I was going through this monologue that I just read out, obviously there seems to be a great effort to put in some balance as to what both sides are getting. But to me, as somebody who follows this region, it seems that Ukraine may be getting the shorter end of the stick.
Thank you, Uday. I think you are bang on the target.
It's Vineet, sir, not Uday. Uday is on leave today, but nevertheless.
You see, look at this agreement. The first important standout point of the agreement is the loss of territory. Ukraine has lost 20% of its country to Russia. And now this agreement will formalize not only this, Crimea also. Because Russia has been insisting that Crimea be also recognized as a part of Russia. So now we have the entire Donbass, the Crimea, and Zaporozhye and Kherson, large areas have been captured. So it will be status quo. It means that wherever the Russians are today, that will be their territory. So that is one important victory for Russia, because Russia has been insisting, Putin has been insisting that this is a red line. Now Russia will give back the areas captured in Sumy and Kharkiv, because these are the two areas where the Russians have also captured some territory, but there was indication from Putin some time back that he was okay to give back these areas. So I think this is a major positive for the Russians. Second positive for the Russians is that Ukraine will never become a member of the NATO. And I was wondering, because 4 years back, Russia wanted the same thing. And you have fought a war for 4 years, so much of destruction, and you're back to square one. Because Russia wanted a security guarantee from Ukraine that it will not be part of NATO, which American and the European countries, they somehow pumped up Zelensky to fight this war. So that will be the second part. Third part is the nuclear part. That is also very significant if you, because in my thinking, the START 1 treaty lapses in February. So that is going to be extended. So that implies that Ukraine will never be a nuclear nation. And if you remember, Ukraine had to actually forego its nuclear status a few years back. So that'll be the third loss.
Oh, so all that is fine, but I want you to tell me in a short answer, how does this embolden Russia? This basically is putting a stamp on the aspirations that Russia has had, the aspirations with which it started this war.
This is going to embolden Russia, but you see where the stage of the war is now. Ukraine is totally devastated. It does not have the forces and the morale to fight this battle. So there are looking for a way out now, because it cannot be dictated on the terms of Zelensky, and that is why Zelensky is being forced to accept this 28 points, and you will see there will be hardly any opposition from Zelensky now. Some opposition will be from Putin, because those some $100 billion of frozen fund and all those things are there that can be negotiated upon. And one important point, Uday, you see how the United States has manipulated to come inside Ukraine now, because the entire infrastructure, and there is one development fund which is going to be monitored by the United States, and all the minerals and all the construction work, the infrastructure, you will find the American companies coming here. So the United States has found a way now to further its own economy, because all the exploration, all the mines, because there are plenty of natural resources in Ukraine, and USA is going to exploit that, and that is a master stroke, I feel, which the United States has covertly come into this thing. And
all right, so we've run out of time, but appreciate your thoughts. Appreciate your thoughts, sir. We've run out of time, but I appreciate your thoughts, sir. Thank you so much for speaking with us. We take a short break. Be right back.
धरती आबा भगवान बिरसा मुंडा की 150वीं जयंती और झारखंड राज्य के 25 वर्ष पूरे होने के उपलक्ष्य में 15 से 16 नवंबर 2025 को राज्य भर में भव्य 2 दिवसीय महोत्सव मनाया गया, जिससे पूरे राज्य में उत्सव सा माहौल रहा। इस महोत्सव में पूरे राज्य में खुशी और उमंग की लहर दिखाई दी।
आज ये 25 साल का उत्सव जरूर है, लेकिन मेरा ये मानना है कि ये 25 साल नहीं, अगला 25 साल 2050 में ये झारखंड प्रदेश कैसा होगा, उसकी परिकल्पना हम कर रहे हैं।
अगर आप बनना चाहते हैं एंकर, या फिर आप में है जुनून एक तेज तर्रार न्यूज रिपोर्टर बनने का, तो आप ज्वाइन करें ITV और इंडिया न्यूज़ का मीडिया स्कूल। ITV नेक्स्ट मीडिया इंटरनेशनल स्कूल का कोर्स आपको मौका देता है देश के दिग्गज एंकर्स के साथ काम करने का। ITV नेक्स्ट मीडिया इंटरनेशनल स्कूल में आप बेहद नजदीकी से देख पाएंगे किस तरह से ITV नेटवर्क के दिग्गज पत्रकारों की टीम दिन रात खबरों पर काम करती है। इस कोर्स के दौरान आप सीखेंगे एंकरिंग की एक एक बारीकी उन एंकर्स के साथ जो देश को रखते हैं हर खबर से बाखबर। ITV नेक्स्ट मीडिया इंटरनेशनल स्कूल का ये कोर्स आपके एंकरिंग स्किल्स को करेगा इतना सशक्त, मजबूत, जिससे आप बनेंगे पत्रकारिता की दुनिया का वो चमकता चेहरा जो दुनिया देखेगी और पसंद करेगी।
Now it's not just the parents, but the kids themselves are going and looking for partners.
Where you meet and where you vibe, and who you feel like, is going to be your partner.
It could be a state ID. So they upload that. So at least the basics of their age, their first and last name, and their gender. So at least that on, and we met. We are sure what we are getting.
You need to have a validation on the background check. You need to know what about his earnings.
Watch We Women Want at these times on Newsx.
Welcome back. Breaking news coming in. Prime Minister Modi has landed in Johannesburg in South Africa to attend this 20th G20 Leaders Summit. Pia, my colleague, is joining us on the broadcast to talk more about this. Pia, this is something that has to be very close to the Prime Minister's heart, considering the fact that the last G20 that India hosted, we made sure that a number of African countries, the global south, was represented to the hilt.
absolutely, Vineet. I'll keep this short and crisp. You can clearly see Johannesburg rolling out the red carpet. It's a power-packed 2-day summit. The theme is solidarity, equality and sustainability. And the Prime Minister will basically be attending not just the summit sessions, but also the India, Brazil, South Africa leaders meeting. There are several key bilaterals to keep our eye out for. Crucially, with Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi, that will be the first meeting between Prime Minister Modi and Sanae Takaichi. But one thing that Bharat will be spotlighting is the global South. Remember when we were chairing the G20, it was India that had spearheaded the push for the inclusion of the African Union. That's going to be playing a major role in this particular summit. And Vineet, what's also important is the United States is not participating. Trump is not going to be there. Neither is any representative, owing to the fact that South Africa has filed a case against Israel at the International Criminal Court, and also its positioning in the BRICS. So we'll keep our eyes peeled for further developments. Back to you.
Pia, I appreciate you joining us. Thank you for that input. All right, well, a light-hearted comment at the Bangalore Tech Summit 2025 has reignited a very serious debate about Bengaluru's crippling traffic crisis. Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla quipped about the city's congestion during the Future Makers Conclave. Let's listen in to what he said before we begin.
I'm coming all the way from the other side of the Bangalore, Marathalli. So I've spent thrice the time that I'm going to be spending on this presentation with you. So you have to look at the commitment that I have.
Well, the audience burst into laughter the moment he mentioned Marathalli, an area notorious for its narrow roads and chronic bottlenecks. But the humour has sparked frustration, with many saying that the joke reflects a lived reality for millions. Responding to the remark, IT and Minister Priyank Kharge, who was present at the event, assured that such an experience will not be repeated. However, the episode is being viewed as an embarrassment for the Congress-led state government. This is not the first time the city's traffic has made headlines. Recently, Hotmail co-founder Sabir Bhatia asked bluntly on social media, "How are you people tolerating this every day?" The remark has also found resonance amongst industry leaders. Biocon founder Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw has repeatedly flagged the issue. In October, she quoted a visitor from China who questioned the state of the city's roads and cleanliness. Infosys veteran Mohandas Pai also sarcastically advertised a 4-day, 3-night Bengaluru traffic tourism package. All these quips and Twitter backlash aside, Bengaluru ranks amongst the worst cities in Asia for congestion. And according to the 2024 TomTom Global Traffic Index, the city is the third slowest in the world, behind Barranquilla in Colombia and Kolkata. Drivers here take more than 28 minutes to travel just 10 kilometers, adding up to 132 extra hours on the road every year. The city's outer ring road, home to nearly 500 tech companies and used daily by 8 to 10 lakh commuters, remains one of the worst choke points. Estimates suggest that vehicles burn nearly 3 litres of fuel just to travel 1.5 kilometers on the stretch. No surprise that Bengaluru Traffic Police frequently issues congestion advisories for the ORR. As Bengaluru races to become a global tech powerhouse, its infrastructure continues to lag behind, and a joke that triggered laughter on stage has once again forced the city to confront a problem that's no longer funny. We'll talk about this with people who live in Bangalore and who understand what is being done and what is not. Brinda Adige, social activist, with us on the broadcast. Shekhar Vijayan, political commentator and a resident of Bengaluru, also joins us on the show. Seema Kausar, activist, is with us on the program as well. Last but not the least, Sandeep Anirudhan, convener of the Citizen Agenda for Bengaluru, is also with us on the program. Brindaji, I'll begin with you. Well, you know, just as in North India at this point in time, my right to breathe is a fundamental right. Similarly, in a modern society and for a country that's aiming to become, developed by 2047, this is not a good start. In fact, if something like this happened in 1948 or 1949, it would have been considered okay. But we are living in an age where technology, AI, everything is being airbrushed by technology and science, but yet the hub of this innovation continues to simmer under problems which the citizens don't deserve. What is your take on what's happening in Bangalore? And do you think there will ever be a solution to the woes of the citizens? Because from what we see and hear, that the corruption is so deep rooted, it's government agnostic.
yes, it is government agnostic, because you and I know that this has been going on and on in every cycle of the government that has come into Karnataka and has been governing us. And like you mentioned, corruption is number one, almost the agenda, looks like, of every bureaucratic department that is here and politician. But the most important, deplorable, is the non-accountability. There is the laws, the policies, and the schemes are made in such a way that you cannot fix accountability. Nobody can be fixed and nobody can be pulled up, challenged, or questioned, because everybody is in the rut. And because of that rut, nobody wants to take the responsibility to fix that accountability on anybody. Now, you mentioned that, the technology, sophisticated technology, it is not something that we are talking about, somewhere 20 years backward. Sophisticated technology at the tip of our, at our fingertips, and the government doesn't want to utilize it. The government is making excuses, putting up plans, giving explanations and reasoning. Like you mentioned, you can laugh at it, but one just looks at it and says, these are the cream of the society. We're talking of bureaucrats who have written exams, gone through several interviews, and then brought to that space where they are just now. If they can make these kind of plans and present it to the citizens, is it not just a mockery of citizens in mother of democracies? Every time we want to ask a question, they will come back with something else. There's a lot of knee-jerk reactions, knee-jerk plans, and then a lot of eyewash talk. In fact, Sandeep will also tell you that there are a group of citizens who are spending our time. Not only have we paid all our taxes, every citizen, including the beggar out there, is paying our taxes to the government, but we are now forced to go to court. Okay, we say that these are people who are bound by the judgments and verdicts and the rulings given by the court. But here you have the bureaucracy and the politician nonchalant. They are not worried. There's a judgment given, you have to follow it. No, they are not bothered about it. There's a time frame within which you have to do that. No, they are not bothered, because nobody is going to pull them up. So now where do we go? Because we every time keep thinking that the courts are our last resort. And when you go there, there would be some action by these people because they are at least accountable to the courts. But no, they are not even accountable. What do we do with them? We need a law. One law to recall the politician who has not lived up to our expectations and has not followed anything that their party has spoken through, so in their manifesto. And adjacent to that law, we also need something where the bureaucrats, nobody has to take permission from somebody else to book these guys for criminal negligence and for corruption. Until and unless we get this, we will no longer be the mother of democracies. Citizens will be taken for a ride and mocked at every step. And we will continue to pay through our nose for everything that these guys are squandering our money for.
Seema Kausar, how do you respond to what Brinda Adike has said that, there is complete apathy? That's the correct word. There's complete apathy towards what the public wants. Whatever the manifestos tell you before governments are elected, I am yet to see any of that manifest into reality once the government takes over. And Bangalore perhaps is at the fulcrum of that non-performing promise that governments make. But, to add insult to injury, Bangalore was also a city that came up very fast. Bangalore was also a city which was inhabited very quickly by corporates and MNCs. So there was a point in time, there was a transitional point in time where the powers that be had the opportunity to change the infrastructure, which they did not. Perhaps that did happen in Delhi. We have Noida, we have Gurgaon. These were all envisaged because Delhi was not able to assimilate all that was coming inside. Perhaps the powers that be at the right time did not focus that Bangalore too wanted or needed something like that.
Thank you so much for having me in your channel. I have little bit disagreement with Brinda ji, what she said. So she's also staying in Bangalore. She knows very well what is Bangalore. Bangalore city is not at all meant for this much crowd. But actually, even when 2006, we this Karnataka state started metro in Bangalore. When Manmohan Singh ji government was there in Karnataka, that Dharam Singh ji government was there just to tackle these kind of problems. And and I'm very much thanks for the our astronaut. I think he just to show his dedication to the public, he has taken example, and I'm very thankful to him that it give us to explain the traffic problem. I know that all the stand-up comedian are also doing the cracking joke on it, but it is a very he gave the opportunity to us to explain what exactly happening, why it is happening in the Bangalore. See, I wanted to give you one example, because when the Deepavali passed in few days before, the whole roads are empty. And we Bangalorean went on roads to see that how roads are empty. So Bangalore, a city, this is the thing where we are giving so much job opportunities to all over the country people, all over everywhere. Other state are especially Bihar, UP, many north and northeast states are not able to provide proper jobs to those people, and
ma'am, what are you saying?
Here.
I'm not following what you're saying, ma'am. Can you tell me where exactly is this conversation going? Do you support the government in its non-performance of infrastructure, or do you not? I'm not able to make head and tail of what you're saying, ma'am.
No, I'm telling why it is happening. I wanted to bring the other face of the coin in front of the people, in front of the Indian people. So why Bangalore is nowadays on joke part. So this is the thing. Even though, so we have seen why this is first point, that Bangalore is not made up for this many crowded. Still, there are so many job opportunities there. People are coming here from all over the state. So this crowd is happening. The second thing, when we have seen there is no, when for the Deepavali and all any festival, when all the other state people went back to their states, we have seen how empty these roads are. I think Brinda and all the Bangalorean will agree to my point that they have seen this, how empty our roads are. But still, we are providing, and our government trying to build double-decker transit system. In Bangalore South, there is a one flyover for the vehicle, and above that metro system is there. Yes, of course, there is delay happening, because that is the reason government is trying to make it greater Bangalore, expand the Bangalore, because of the people coming from outside. So unnecessary blaming the government, it is not, it is become a fashion nowadays. But of course, there are lagging is
so
there.
Seema ji, who's supposed to be blamed? Who is supposed to be blamed?
See, it is that means we have to tell that all the people who are coming from the outside to seeking the jobs, then go back to their houses, go back to their states. I
somehow cannot fathom the logic that you're putting out on national TV on prime time. Shekhar, I want you to come in here. Do you agree with her that the people are to blame, and Bangalore should not have people moving in who are finding opportunities and jobs? Because they will cramp up the system in terms of its availability via roads and buildings?
No, Vineet.
First of all, do you agree with what Ms. Kausar said? Do you agree with her?
Yeah. Vineet, thank you for having me over. I think more than the people, I think you have to look at the system. The problem in Bangalore is there's a problem in governance. There is a problem in the system which is in place. You cannot blame the people who are coming in here to work. The people who are coming in here to work have made Bangalore what it is. So I think Bangalore is an amalgamation of different people coming in from different parts of India. You've got Malayalis, Tamilians, Punjabis, Teluguites, people coming from all parts. That's another discussion. But I think the real point here is, why is Bangalore, if you're talking about tech, you're talking about space, and you're talking about mobility, we cannot talk about that in the same space right now, because mobility has gone out of the window. I was just thinking, when you spoke about astronaut Shubhanshu Shukla.
No, but do you support the fact that people from outside of Bengaluru should come and work in Bengaluru if there are opportunities?
Absolutely.
Well, so Ms. Kausar believes that is the reason why Bangalore is gone to the gutter because of this.
No, I don't.
And the politicians cannot be blamed. She's completely, given a scot-free label to the politicians of the day.
No, Vineet, I think on the contrary, the government has a lot of work to do here. They have to partner. They have to listen into what the problems are. And this is not something we've been talking yesterday. Vineet, we have been on so many discussions. We've spoken about the infrastructure of Bangalore, which is so shoddy compared to when we talk about Bangalore being the tech capital of the world. And Vineet, this is not just Bangalore. If you go to different cities in India, I'm talking about smaller cities in India, their infrastructure is much better than us. Much better than Bangalore. So I think we need to wake up and smell the coffee in Bangalore. The fact of the matter is, Bangalore is only, there are flyovers which have not been completed for the last 14 years. There are roads which have been dug up perennially. Whenever a downpour happens, it feels like there's a thunderstorm which has happened. People have lost lives here. So I really believe the government should really take responsibility. And rather than blaming people who come in from all parts of India to come and make a living in Bangalore, I think we should focus on what the government really is doing. The government needs to partner with the right kind of corporate people and try to understand what the problem is. They need to use technology well. Right now, they're not doing that. Right now, they're just not looking at the problem. They're just trying to, not take accountability for it, not take any responsibility for it. And this is just a disaster which is waiting to happen. And the fact that, like an astronaut, an illustrious astronaut from India, which is Shubhanshu Shukla, to come in and make such an ironic statement about Bangalore, made the ministers wake up. Which just speaks about the fact that if we all speak about it, nobody really takes cognizance about it, nobody really notices. Now, because he has spoken about it, they will, I hope they take some action. But the point of the matter here is, what are they doing about it? What is the governance model they have in place? Why are they not taking any action around it? It is not so tough, when you have technology, when you speak about being the tech capital of the world, when you have got so much of intelligence here in Bangalore. Why is it so tough for them to do it? They just have to look across different cities. You look at even Andhra Pradesh, you look at even Kerala, you look at different cities, the infrastructure is so much better. The fact of the matter is Bangalore's grown very fast, no doubt. But that cannot be a reason for the governance being so bad and so shoddy and so, and lacking responsibility.
I quite agree with you. Okay, let's also get Mr. Sandeep Anirudhan into this conversation. Sandeep, I hope you can hear me. Sandeep, what's your take on what's happening in Bangalore? You've been patient enough to listen to a number of angles being discussed. Sandeep, if your video is not going to be on, all right, there you are. Sandeep, you've been privy to a number of angles and emotions that have been discussed in the last few minutes. Which one do you align with? Do you think that the government is to be blamed? In my opinion, as a citizen of this country, every time something goes wrong, the government should be blamed or should accept part of the blame.
Well, if the government is not willing to take blame, they should be, as Brinda rightly put, they should not be in power anymore. We desperately need a right to recall. And I think we missed the bus when the big anti-corruption movement was happening, when the demand was there. We should have pushed forward and got that, the right to recall. Now, it's very tragic that the city that's called the Silicon capital of India, the IT capital of India, the tech capital of India, cannot get its basics right. So what I mean by basics is it's about planning and it's about governance. And I'll tell you why there is no excuse for it. Long before Bengaluru started expanding, in 1992, the 74th Amendment of the Constitution came into law. The 74th Amendment clearly says the city should have a planning authority called the Metropolitan Planning Committee. It should form a master plan for the city, a holistic master plan, consulting experts. You're supposed to have experts on the Metropolitan Planning Committee. It's been 3 decades. 3 decades, none of the governments, including the present one, have operationalized the Metropolitan Planning Committee. We don't have urban planners and transport planners who actually know how to plan dealing with the situation. We have all these incompetent, illiterate, ignorant politicians who take decisions instead. How is that supposed to bring good results? We have to have competent people taking decisions. Not some MLA or minister who comes up and says, oh, you know what, I love tunnels, I'll build a tunnel. I love flyovers, I'll build one flyover from here to there. How will that solve a problem? You have to have a comprehensive master plan, a comprehensive mobility plan. Only then will this problem get solved. If you go the world over, you take a Tokyo, or take a Singapore, take a London, where large populations exist, the only solution is mass rapid transit. You have to have rail-based mass transit system. You have to have a comprehensive grid. If you go to Tokyo, which is exactly the size of Bengaluru, you have 4,000 kilometers of mass transit, rail-based, 4,000. And do you know how many rides they do in a day? 4 crore rides per day. You compare it with Bengaluru. Bengaluru has 100 kilometers of mass transit. Where is 4,000 kilometers? Where is 100? You see the big gap. How do we fill that gap? That's what we should be questioning. Do our politicians talk about that? No. And then Bengaluru with its 100 kilometers does about 10 or 12 lakh rides a day. Where is 4 crore rides? Where is 10 lakh rides? Now, do you understand why our roads are congested? This is why our roads are congested, because we don't have the basic infrastructure that a city of this scale and this size of population deserves. Why doesn't it have it? Because we don't have competent people planning. And why don't we have competent people planning? Because our political leadership is so shallow, so ignorant and so stupid that they don't know what has to be done. And they can't even read our constitution. Why can't they read our constitution? When it says you need to have a planning authority, operationalize the planning authority. And once you have competent people designing a master plan, implement it. Why do we have ad hoc projects? You know what? I'm actually, on a humorous note, it's a good thing that, our government, Karnataka government or DK Shivkumar is not in charge of space program. Because if we had a space program under them, they'll be, pursuing tunnel projects and flyover projects and elevated corridor projects to the moon. That's the kind of intelligence they have. I'm thankful they're not in charge of something like that.
Fair enough, fair enough. We're going to wrap up, but I'm going to give Brindaji an opportunity to respond to what Ms. Kausar had to say earlier on. Brindaji, would you like to respond to that? The government cannot be blamed for whatever is going on over here.
It is only the government that must take the blame, because it is the government that is responsible. It is the government that is utilizing the taxes from the people, not you and I. So how can the government say that I do not want to take responsibility? And whatever Madam talked about other people coming into our city and working, we need manpower, Madam. There are lots of things that are getting built on a daily basis, whether it is roads or flyovers, however haphazard.
Now, it's not just the parents, but the kids themselves are going and looking for partners.
Where you meet and where you vibe, and who you feel like, is going to be your partner.
It could be a state ID. So they upload that. So at least the basics of their age, their first and last name, and their gender. So at least that on and we met. We are sure what we are getting.
You need to have a validation on the background check. You need to know what about his earnings. Watch We Women Want at these times on Newsx.
All right, welcome back. You're watching Newsx. A Tejas fighter, in fact, crashed while performing a maneuver at the Dubai Air Show. People at the event who saw this particular crash said that they were not able to gauge as to what transpired. They were also not able to see if the pilot ejected or not, but we're going to try and understand from our guests as to what they think must have happened. Joining us on the program at this point in time is Major General A.K. Sivaj, former Chief of Territorial Army, Senior Defence Expert. Major General Brajesh Kumar, former DG Military Infrastructure, Senior Defence Expert, also joins us on the show. Group Captain U.K. Devnath, former Indian Air Force officer, with us on the program as well. And last but by no means the least, Mr. Ravi Gupta, former Director, DRDO. Before we begin, let's listen in. Well, the jet itself is a single-seat light combat aircraft developed by Hindustan Aeronautics Limited. That's why it's necessary, or rather it becomes necessary, to talk about what went wrong. What's interesting is also that the incident marks the second crash involving a Tejas aircraft in less than 2 years. In March 2024, a Tejas fighter went down in Rajasthan's Jaisalmer. We spoke about it then. However, the pilot ejected safely in that case. Now the Tejas is a 4.5 generation multi-role combat aircraft built to perform air defense missions, offensive air support and close combat operations. It is also noted for being one of the lightest and smallest fighters in its class. A key feature of the jet is its Martin Baker 0-to-0 ejection seat, designed to allow pilots to eject safely even at zero altitude and zero speed, such as during takeoff, landing or low-level maneuvers. The system uses an explosive charge to blow off the canopy, thrust the pilot clear of the aircraft and deploy parachutes to stabilize descent. All this brings us to the question as to what exactly must have happened. Why did this plane crash? On that note, we'll begin this conversation. Like I already said, we will begin with Major General A.K. Sivaj. General Sivaj, first of all, your observation. We so far have seen that the Tejas has been a reliable aircraft. What actually brings me, a bit of concern is the fact that India has also thought and, made defense export a part of its Viksit Bharat agenda. So for the image as well as the reputation of all our indigenous touched aircrafts and equipment has to be unmatched in terms of safety and security. Does that harm Tejas's reputation in any way? What's happened here?
Yeah, Vineet. See, 2-3 things stand out. First of all, Tejas Mark 1 Alpha, which this was an aircraft, it has got a very good track record. From 2001 to now, this is the only second air crash. In such type of air show, you find sometime F-35, Sukhoi 57 also have crashed. Now, as far as this aircraft is concerned, in last 5 days, they have done number of maneuvers, and the air display shown by them was of a very high standard, and there were a lot of interest which was shown by aviation experts, and there were a number of countries which shown keenness of buying this, especially Southeast Asia like Philippines, Indonesia, Vietnam and Malaysia. Now, unfortunate incident which has taken place on the last day, that's on the 5th day, possibly looks to be that it was a low altitude maneuver which was tried by the pilot, and possibly the G maneuver, and the speed in which he has come down, he wanted to take the aircraft again back, but in that loop possibly he couldn't have done. That is seemingly looks to be the cause, but however, the court of inquiry has been already ordered. It will exactly find out what a reason, whether it was a technical hitch, whether it was a bird hit, whether it was a pilot error, that will come. But one thing is very certain, the Tejas Mark 1 Alpha is an extremely good aircraft. It's a multi-role aircraft. It's known for air defense, it is for offensive action, it is also for defensive action. I suppose this will be a temporary setback, but it's not going to make impact in the long run, because Tejas Mark 1 has displayed its capability for last 4 to 5 days, and it has basically taken the interest of all the aviation experts which were present there during this Dubai Air Show. Vineet.
Okay. Fair enough, sir. Let me also rope in Major General Brajesh Kumar into this conversation. Sir, there have been concerns in the past as well when it comes to the engine performance and the indigenous engine failure that has taken place in the Tejas Mk1 and Mk1A in the past as well. There were different variants. The engine was imported. The GE 404 F404 engine was used, if I'm not mistaken. A lot of people, officials have also stated that it was an underpowered aircraft. Is that something that comes to your mind when you look at this air crash?
Any crash is not a very nice thing to happen, especially to us or to the nation or to the user, or also to the HAL, which has its name in producing aircraft. We've been doing it for long periods of time. Setbacks do happen, and the aspect of engine you talked about, yes, we have a weakness as far as the engine is concerned. We don't make worthwhile ourselves. We are dependent on import, whether it's from US or it was from Russia or Ukraine, as you talked about it. The engines are an issue. But notwithstanding, see, the aircraft itself, the fighter aircraft, which is going to be our mainstay, has large number of equipment, assemblies, sub-assembly, and systems. Engine, of course, is important, and the way it looks like today, it went into a dive and could not pull while performing acrobatics, which aircraft supposed to do. It was trying to show its skills, its maneuverability, and what have you to an audience. So, well, at the face of it, it looks awkward, but that's all right. That's all right. The people who the business was serious in nature, they look at many other parameters, and I'm sure we'll come out of it. And also, the board of inquiry or the court of inquiry which has come out will fix things up. And the fact that India is no pushover as far as the avionics is concerned. When you can land our spacecraft on the wrong side of the moon with limited amount of budget, so our technical prowess per se is there. Let's not make any mistakes on this particular thing. It is a sad day because we lost the pilot as well. In the first aircraft, the pilot had bailed out. So in the 25 years journey, where we have inducted 2 squadrons into the Air Force, I think 16 plus 18, the 34 of them working, some of the Navy variants itself as well. It's a long journey. Development of aircraft indigenously is a long journey. If you talk of the famous ones who, the Douglas or the European ones who make these fighter aircraft, or the Russian ones as a matter of fact, they all started the journey during the pre-Second World War stage. During the World War II, they came up their own. And thereafter, of course, there have been huge amount of changes in technology. So the life of an aircraft or a fighter aircraft and its cycle time is pretty huge. We don't need to get disheartened. Obviously, it's boring to the eyesight when you see a national, IAF aircraft or HAL aircraft crashing down. But that's okay. That's a setback. That's temporary. Only thing bad is that we lost a trained pilot who was doing the maneuver. And the aircraft itself has huge amount of systems and subsystems, and we keep on upgrading them. So it's a constant process, and I'm sure the HAL, the people in the IAF authority, the ministry will look into it rather closely. But as far as people are concerned, our people are concerned, the nation is concerned, let's not be despondent. It's an accident, yes, the accident is sad.
Okay.
But then it's a building block as well.
I completely agree with you. It is an accident. It is rather unfortunate what's happened. We lost a brave pilot over there. Group Captain UK Devnath, it's imperative for us to discuss, what were some of those complications that the Tejas has had in the past. It's important to discuss them. There have been challenges which have been related to maintainability, sustainability as well. And despite it being an indigenous project or an indigenous product also, the Tejas remains heavily reliant on foreign supplies and components like the engine for that matter, and other materials which are used into it. Is that something that
perhaps could create more problems for the Tejas in the past or in the future?
Vineet, no country in the world makes 100% aircraft through its own inventory or through its own resources. Let's take a typical project like F-35. F-35 also, about 20% of the components of F-35 are manufactured either in Europe or Taiwan or Japan, South Korea. This is a typical trend all over the world. Similarly, Russia also, till recent times, used to make about 80 to 90% components in Russia and import rest of the components or sub-components, sub-assemblies from countries like North Korea, China, even Iran. In the case of Tejas, presently entire engine and engine related spare parts are being imported from USA. Other than that, major components of the electronic warfare suit kit EW system is also being imported primarily from Israel. We are also importing certain critical components like ejection seat from, say, UK. It is a typical trend all over the world. That is not the area of concern. Area of concern is, will these countries continue to supply us these spare parts in next 50 years? Typically, Indian Air Force or any other Air Force in the world, including US Air Force, flies its aircraft through a life cycle which is invariably 40 years plus. 50 calendar years is a typical life of a fighter aircraft even in US Air Force. So all these countries which are giving us spare parts or important components for Tejas must be persuaded, one, either they continue to supply that component to India for next 50 years, alternately they do 100% transfer of technology to India so that in, say, next 5 to 10 years horizon, that component, say hydraulic pump, say fuel booster pump, say the electrical DC-DC converter, we start manufacturing in India itself. Technological challenges are always there. Other than transfer of technology, what happens if we have to make a component? Typical example will be, say, a dome of the radar. We have to make a big amount of investment in support equipment, the GSC ground support equipment, the laboratory, the workshop, the tools, dies, jigs, electronic support measures. These all small things, they add up to huge amount of cost. So many countries in the world, they go to the third part. Third part is, as the aircraft progresses through its life, say after 20 years, if we come to know that Israel has stopped making the electronic warfare kit, then after 20 years, when the aircraft will go through mid-life upgrade, that is the word used, jargon used by Indian Air Force and HAL. During mid-life upgrade, we introduce another new set of electronic warfare kit, which by that time either will be made in India, or maybe imported from another country. Reason being that by next 20 years, Israel may stop manufacturing the present electronic warfare kit. This happens with all the aircraft. But Vineet, Tejas being very light combat aircraft, there are difficulties. Firstly, there is a very limited space available inside the body to accommodate a new type of system or subsystem. Volume is very less. Secondly, Tejas, the generator cannot take on unlimited amount of additional electronic or electrical facilities. See, the generator generates certain amount of voltage, amperage, certain amount of capacity. So we cannot load further electrical systems on Tejas. Always it is a give and take. Our experience has been like that only. Like MiG-21, when we wanted to incorporate on MiG-21 new types of air-to-ground weapon systems, we had to cut away some old air-to-air missile delivery circuits. So we had to be happy with a Type 96 variant of MiG-21, in which electricity supply because there is only one generator, two generator. They can supply only that much of electricity. So the electricity from air defense system, they were cut off. They were removed from the aircraft, and instead of that, we fitted bomb delivery circuits. Yes, Vinith.
All right. Fair enough, sir. Thank you for that analysis. I'm also going to take a reaction from Mr. Ravi Gupta, former director of the DRDU. Mr. Gupta, I'm sure your insights from the past will give you some inkling as to what could have gone wrong here.
Vinith, first of all, I would say it is a very sad day, and my heart goes to the family of the deceased pilot. But let me tell you, my fellow panelists have already spoken quite a lot about it. As such, what could have gone, I would not like to make a guess, because the inquiry is being ordered. And in such a case, that, the aircraft, as other panelists have brought out, it's a very, very complex equipment. And we have come a long way when we made our own HF Margoot. From that day onwards, today, what Tejas we have designed and developed within the country, it's completely, first of all, it is one of the safest aircraft in the world, the smallest. You just now said it is the smallest aircraft in the world and a multi-role aircraft. The entire system, all these systems of this are computer controlled and AI enabled. So as such, we think that it is one of the safest aircraft. And if you take a look back at the track record, it did not have a single crash in the entire development cycle. And only the last 2 years, we had one aircraft crash, and this is the second one. We don't want a single crash to happen. But matter of fact is that, after all, aircraft is a complex machine, and sometimes some things go wrong. What is important is that the inquiry is being conducted. Everything, all the details will be studied, and this will be a further learning process, because always in technology, it is always a learning process. It is a continuous learning process, and further improvements are to be made. So this incident, it's a very sad incident, unfortunate incident, but it will add to our knowledge even more, and make Tejas aircraft even more enabled, more competent, and more safer.
All right, fair enough. Before we wrap up, I'm going to take concluding remarks from all our guests. General Sivach, I'll begin with you, sir. So what does this mean for our indigenous future as well as our indigenous capability? One crash is, of course, nothing to relook things at, but it's definitely a reminder that we can tweak the parameters to allow or disallow such accidents from happening in the future.
Very correct. We need, this is a learning process. Very correctly brought out. This is Tejas Mark 1 Alpha. We have got an engine from US. This is G404 engine. And if we are now further going to make it Tejas Mark 2, it will be G414 engine. Remember that in the world, there are only 4 countries which are manufacturing engine of their own. That is US, UK, France, and Russia. Even China do not have capability of making its own engine. It make it by reverse engineering. So therefore, it takes time. We tried on a Kaveri engine. It didn't succeed. Now for AMCA, that is Advanced Medium Combat Aircraft, which is roll out within 10 years, we are now licensing with France for the Safran engine. Possibly we'll develop ourselves jointly, and you'll find state of art. Now, whatever has happened, it is a temporary setback. In long run, it's not going to impact. Though, of course, the country like Malaysia, Indonesia, Philippines, they were almost about to give the order because they have seen the capability of this aircraft in last 4 days. The air display, we should not only see what has happened on this day when unfortunately this incident taken place. Otherwise, this multi-role aircraft has been liked by one and all. One is it is a multi-role aircraft. Second thing is it is got the best radar system, avionics, and early warning system. Third, it is on a very competitive rate. I think Tejas Mark 1 Alpha 2, they have a very bright future. We should not be become negative in what has happened. This do happen. Eurofighter had, F-16 always had number of accident, F-35 had, Su-57. Let's court of inquiry find out what is the actual reason of it. But I'm sure it has got still a very bright future. Vinny.
All right, fair enough. General Kumar, concluding thoughts, sir? General Brajesh Kumar?
Services.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. Go on.
The services are clear on this subject. The principal service, the Indian Air Force and the Indian Navy, which is a user of this, they are inducting into service. They are training themselves. They are training their systems. They have no issue with all of it. So we don't have to, look helter-skelter or look left and right to change our fund. Forget about the world. Export will come later, but that's more important. We are making it for ourselves, our defense. And this is going to be our mainstay, replacing the workhorse MiGs. So therefore, there is no particular reason to get worried. Remain focused, and the accident has to be analyzed and pushed through. Engine remains our weakness. Engine remains our weakness. I am sure people in the Atmanirbhar Bharat and thereabouts are addressing it. So fair enough, sad day, but push on, bash on regardless. We have to support, people have to support, the scientists supporting this cycle.
All right. Group Captain Devnath, concluding thoughts, sir?
Now that we will learn with this accident, and definitely Court of Inquiry will conclude and give us an insight into what more finishing touches are required. The aircraft is very good, absolutely no doubt about that.
All right, Mr. Ravi Gupta, we end with your thoughts, sir, on what the future entails for the Tejas.
Although an unfortunate incident, but it will immensely add to our knowledge about the aircraft, how it is functioning. It will not only make our Tejas aircraft even more safer, but also the inputs will go into the refining the design of the Tejas Mark II and the TED-BF which is planned, and also the AMCA which is already sanctioned and under development on the table. So I'm sure that this incident will give a lot of insights into the further design refinements of our future aircraft. I don't think there is anything serious in the aircraft itself, but nevertheless, let the inquiry come out. What has happened, we will know. And as the other panelists are saying, we have a bright future not just for Tejas aircraft, but for the Indian aeronautical industry. India, we have a great potential, and the Tejas is just the beginning. It's a long way to go, not only in terms of aircraft, we are also working on the unmanned aircraft system. The future belongs to the unmanned aircraft systems and the manned and unmanned teaming systems. So all these inputs will go into further refining our thinking on how to go about designing these futuristic systems.
Fair enough, sir. Appreciate, gentlemen, you joining in and sharing your profound perspective on this unfortunate incident. We take a short break now. We'll be back.
Co-powered by PolicyBazaar.com. हर फैमिली होगी इंश्योर्ड। अगर आप बनना चाहते हैं एंकर या फिर आप में है जुनून एक तेज तर्रार न्यूज रिपोर्टर बनने का, तो आप ज्वाइन करें ITV और इंडिया न्यूज़ का मीडिया स्कूल। ITV नेक्स्ट मीडिया इंटरनेशनल स्कूल का कोर्स आपको मौका देता है देश के दिग्गज एंकर्स के साथ काम करने का। ITV नेक्स्ट मीडिया इंटरनेशनल स्कूल में आप बेहद नजदीकी से देख पाएंगे किस तरह से ITV नेटवर्क के दिग्गज पत्रकारों की टीम दिन रात खबरों पर काम करती है। इस कोर्स के दौरान आप सीखेंगे एंकरिंग की एक एक बारीकी उन एंकर्स के साथ जो देश को रखते हैं हर खबर से बाखबर। ITV नेक्स्ट मीडिया इंटरनेशनल स्कूल का ये कोर्स आपके एंकरिंग स्किल्स को करेगा इतना सशक्त, मजबूत, जिससे आप बनेंगे पत्रकारिता की दुनिया का वो चमकता चेहरा जो दुनिया देखेगी और पसंद करेगी।
Now it's not just the parents but the kids themselves are going and looking for partners.
Where you meet and where you vibe and who you feel like is going to be your partner.
It could be a state ID, so they upload that, so at least the basics of their age, their first and last name and their gender. So at least that on ANVIMET, we are sure what we are getting.
You need to have a validation on the background check. You need to know what about his earnings. Watch We Women Want at these times on Newsx. Now it's not just the parents, but the kids themselves are going and looking for partners.
Where you meet and where you vibe, and who you feel like, is going to be your partner.
Could be a state ID. So they upload that. So at least the basics of their age, their first and last name, and their gender. So
इफी 2025 का आगाज हो चुका है गोवा में। नमस्कार, मैं उदय प्रताप सिंह, आप जुड़ रहे हैं इंडिया न्यूज और न्यूज एक्स पर। और क्योंकि अंतर्राष्ट्रीय फिल्म फेस्टिवल की बात हो रही है तो हमारे अंतर्राष्ट्रीय सितारे भारत से हमारे संग जुड़ गए हैं। अनुपम खेर जी, बहुत बहुत स्वागत है आपका।
Always a pleasure to see you and welcome to Goa, welcome to IFI. गोवा इट्स अ ब्यूटीफुल फीलिंग। अच्छी फीलिंग है। आज सुबह सुबह मैं तो 5 बजे की फ्लाइट लेकर आया।
ओह वाह।
हाँ, तो
आज सूर्य उदय हुआ अनुपम जी के साथ।
मैंने जहाज में देखा सूर्य उदय होता हुआ। हाँ जी जी।
लवली। सर, इससे पहले कि 2025 के इफी के बारे में बात करें, गोवा की कुछ यादें, इफी की कुछ यादें?
बहुत है, इफी की बहुत यादें हैं। मेरी 1984 में पहली फिल्म जो मैंने सारांश की थी वो पैनोरामा में थी।
अच्छा।
बहुत आई वाज वेरी एक्साइटेड। आई एम एज एक्साइटेड टुडे आफ्टर 41 इयर्स अबाउट इफी बिकॉज आई थिंक हमने तो सिनेमा पढ़ा है ड्रामा स्कूल में या फिल्म इंस्टीट्यूट में, और सिनेमा को सेलिब्रेट किया जाता है फिल्म फेस्टिवल्स में। और मुझे याद है कि एक साल तब मैं स्टूडेंट था, तब मैं फिल्मों में नहीं था। अकीरा कुरोसावा, इलिया खजान और फेलिनी आए थे और मैं वो हमारे स्कूल, आई थिंक 76 की बात है, 75-76 की। व्हाट एन अमेजिंग फीलिंग इट वाज, माय गॉड, कमाल का था। और बहुत सारे पर जब से ये गोवा में हुआ है, आई थिंक दैट्स अ ग्रेट डिसीजन टेकन बाय द गवर्नमेंट, बाय आईएनबी, कि क्या है अब इसका नाम है, यू नो, अदरवाइज सिर्फ फिल्म। अब इफी गोवा एंड पीपल आउटसाइड इंडिया दे वांट टू कम टू, इट हैज एन इट्स ओन टूरिस्ट डेस्टिनेशन एंड फैसिलिटीज़ हैं, काफ़ी सारी चीज़ें होने देखने को मिलती हैं। सो आई थिंक इट्स ओवर द इयर्स इट हैज़ मेड अ नीश इन द इंटरनेशनल फिल्म फेस्टिवल्स. It has made a name. Now the Waves Bazaar that is happening, I think, is a big opportunity for budding filmmakers, actors, script writers. I think that's fantastic.
जी, 2025 की बात करें तो इस इफी में आपके 3 फिल्में की स्क्रीनिंग होने वाली है। एक तो ऑफ कोर्स बहुत खास फिल्म, क्योंकि आप ही ने उसका निर्देशन किया है, आप निर्माता भी हैं, आप अभिनेता भी हैं, तन्वी द ग्रेट, बट 2 और फिल्में भी हैं, आप बताना चाहेंगे अनुपम जी? एंड इस बार आपका जो सेशन का शीर्षक है वो बड़ा इंटरेस्टिंग है, गिविंग अप इज नॉट अ चॉइस।
नहीं, आई एम वेरी हैप्पी। आई थिंक हम अपने लोगों को अंडर प्ले करते हैं, बट आई थिंक नोवेयर इन द वर्ल्ड, इवन इफ आई एम सेइंग इट माई सेल्फ, एन एक्टर हैज हैड 3 फिल्म्स, 2 in the panorama section and 1 in international section. I doubt it. And I'm saying it with both a feeling of humility and feeling of gratitude.
बिल्कुल।
तन्वी द ग्रेट मेरे दिल के बहुत करीब है। I was very happy that it has got selected. We got the Fipliski Award recently, which is an international award of critics. फिर बंगाल फाइल्स है, और फिर सबसे जो विशेष बात है वो इंटरनेशनल सेक्शन में मेरी एक कैनेडियन फिल्म है, उसका नाम है कैलरी। और कैलरी जो है वो आई थिंक 1985 और 86 के बॉम्ब ब्लास्ट पे, कनिष्का बॉम्ब ब्लास्ट पे है, ए पर्सनलाइज्ड स्टोरी ऑफ माय डायरेक्टर। एंड ये तीनों फिल्में यहाँ दिखाई जाएगी। उसके बाद उसके अलावा 1942 की भी एक स्पेशल स्क्रीनिंग, तो 4 हो गई। पर बट आई एम ऑल्सो लुकिंग फॉरवर्ड कि वो मेरा जो मास्टर क्लास है, मैं मास्टर क्लास में सिनेमा के बारे में, मुझसे ज़्यादा ज्ञानी लोग हैं इसलिए मैं सिनेमा के बारे में ज़्यादा बोलता नहीं। उससे पहले एक बार मैंने क्लास की थी एक्टिंग के बारे में, तो मुझे लगा कि यहाँ पर बहुत सारे लोग आते हैं जो अपनी ज़िंदगी में घबराहट होती है। दिस इज़ अ प्रोफेशन, आप जानते हैं, इतने सालों से आप पत्रकारिता करते आ रहे हैं। तो मैंने टॉपिक वो चुनने शुरू किए जिससे जो पार्टिसिपेंट्स हैं, जो मेरी ऑडियंस है, वो रिलेट करे। तो पिछले साल मैंने किया था पावर ऑफ फेलियर, और इस साल है कि गिविंग अप इज़ नॉट अ चॉइस, बिकॉज मेरे अपने भविष्य पास्ट में ऐसा हुआ है जब मैं यहाँ पर काम ढूंढ रहा था कि मुझे बहुत बार ऐसा लगा कि छोड़ो यार, नहीं हो सकता, कुछ नहीं हो सकता। मेरे स्कूल में बहुत सारे ऐसे स्टूडेंट्स आते हैं, तो लेट्स होप, एंड आई डोंट प्रिपेयर बिकॉज द रेफरेंस इज माई लाइफ इज़ अ रेफरेंस। कि एक छोटा सा शहर का लड़का 550वीं फिल्म के बारे में बात करने वाला है अगले हफ्ते, तो आई थिंक इट्स अ वंडरफुल फीलिंग।
इट इज। आप कहते हैं जिंदगी में कुछ भी हो सकता है, और आपके संग तो ये हुआ है। आखिरी सवाल, क्योंकि अंतर्राष्ट्रीय स्तर का ये फेस्टिवल है, अंतर्राष्ट्रीय स्तर पे आपने भारतीय सिनेमा के प्रति क्या भावनाओं में बदलाव देखा है? अभी आप हाल ही में यूरोप में थे, आप उससे पहले न्यूयॉर्क भी गए थे, रॉबर्ट डी नीरो आए थे आप ही की फिल्म के प्रीमियर में। व्हाट इज जो नज़ारा बदला है अंतर्राष्ट्रीय स्तर?
ये हमारा 56th 78 इयर्स में से 56th हमारा फेस्टिवल है, इंटरनेशनल फिल्म फेस्टिवल, और उसमें हम कहाँ से कहाँ पहुँचे हैं। आई थिंक दिस इज हैट्स ऑफ टू अस। हम अपने आप को हमेशा अंडर प्ले करने की कोशिश करते हैं या त्रुटियाँ ढूंढते हैं। मुझे लगता है कि फिल्म इज अ क्लैरिटी ऑफ कियोस, यू नो, बिकॉज आप कियोस से स्क्रिप्ट लिखना शुरू करते हैं, कोई आपके दिमाग में कहानी होती है, क्या करूं, फिर वो क्लैरिटी होती जाती है। फिर कास्टिंग में भी आपके कियोस होता है कि किसको लूँगा, इसको नहीं इसको ले लेते हैं, इसको लेते, फिर धीरे धीरे सिनेमा सिमिलरली festival is basically a celebration of cinema, and celebration cannot be organic. Celebration आप होली में होते हैं, दिवाली में होते हैं, फेस्टिवल में होते हैं, आप थोड़ा ऑडियंस को देखते हैं कि वो बड़े तरीके से डांस कर रहे हैं, खुल के डांस कर रहे हैं। वही सिनेमा है, वही गोवा है, वही इंटरनेशनल फिल्म फेस्टिवल ऑफ इंडिया है। और इंडिया की खासियत यही है कि हमारे पास 22 को हमारी ऑफिशियल लैंग्वेजेस हैं, 3000 से ज़्यादा डायलेक्ट्स हैं हमारे, और we believe in togetherness of colors. कहीं नहीं मनाया जाता होली का त्यौहार, कहीं नहीं देखते आप अलग अलग, हर 500 फीट की दूरी, 500 किलोमीटर की दूरी पर एक नया खाना है, नई वेशभूषा है। तो आई थिंक सिनेमा जो है एक्चुअल तरीके से सेलिब्रेट हिंदुस्तान में होता है। हम मिजरी पे बात डिपेंड नहीं करते हैं, हम लोग जाते हैं फिल्म देखने अपनी तकलीफ को भूलने के लिए। So that's what if he is all about.
बिल्कुल, और उम्मीद करते हैं ये सेलिब्रेशन जारी रहे हमेशा के लिए। बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया हमारे संग जुड़ने के लिए।
थैंक यू।
इस वक्त हमारी मौजूदगी सेंट कोलंबस स्कूल के बाहर है, जहां के 10th क्लास के एक बच्चे ने सुसाइड कर लिया, और इल्ज़ाम है स्कूल के 3 टीचर्स पर, जिनकी वजह से वो बच्चा जो है वो प्रेशर में था और कहीं ना कहीं वो मजबूर हो गया सुसाइड करने के लिए। और आप देख रहे हैं किस तरीके से शौर्य नाम का वो लड़का था, और जिसको लेकर यहाँ पर जस्टिस के लिए लोग जो है स्कूल के बाहर इकट्ठा हो गए हैं। उनके रिलेटिव्स हैं, परिवार वाले हैं, कुछ लोग उनके बच्चे जिनके स्कूल में पढ़ रहे हैं वो लोग हैं, और कहीं ना कहीं जस्टिस की डिमांड जो है वो यहाँ पर की जा रही है। बातचीत भी करेंगे आखिर क्या कुछ मांग लेकर वो यहाँ पर पहुँचे हुए हैं, और आप लोग यहाँ पे सब लोग पहुँचे हुए हैं। कौन लगते हैं आप? शौर्य
उसको छोड़ने आता था मैं, और ये आता था, पर्सनल ड्राइवर हैं, और ज़्यादा परेशान कर रहे थे टीचर। उनके नाम है युक्ति महाजन, प्रिंसिपल है अपराजिता पाल और मनु कालरा और जूली वर्गीस। ये ज़्यादा परेशान कर रहे थे उसको, इसलिए वो टॉर्चर ज़्यादा कर रखा था, इसलिए वो परेशान हो गए। अपनी हमें मतलब न्याय चाहिए।
तो आप डेली छोड़ने आते थे, तो कभी
डेली छोड़ने
मैं आता था मैडम, डेली छोड़ने, मतलब 1 हफ्ता से ज़्यादा टॉर्चर करा हुआ था उसको, मतलब कि नहीं खाना खाता था घर पे, नहीं मतलब
सही
पर 1 हफ्ते से तो मतलब उस पर इतना प्रेशर डाल रखा था कि मतलब वो नहीं तो किसी से बोलता था, घर पे नहीं खाना खाता था, मतलब चुप रहता था। कल सुबह मैं उसको छोड़ने आया था, जब भी मैंने उसको पूछा तो उसने नहीं बताया।
अरेस्ट होने चाहिए, हमें यही मांग है हमारी।
तो कहीं ना कहीं टीचर्स के अरेस्ट की मांग जो है वो यहाँ पर जो लोग हैं वो कर रहे हैं। आप देख सकते हैं किस तरीके से स्कूल के बाहर भीड़ जो है वो यहाँ पर लगी हुई है, और यहाँ पर
स्कूल की जो मैनेजमेंट है ना मैम, वो बहुत इर्रिस्पॉन्सिबल है। पहले भी एक बच्चे की उंगली कट गई थी, तो यहाँ से सिर्फ RML ले जाने में इतना टाइम लगा दिया था कि उसकी उंगली रिकवर नहीं हो पाई थी। फादर मदर आए, वो लेके गए, और टीचर्स इतना प्रेशर करती है। मेरा बेटा भी इसी स्कूल में पढ़ता है, इतना प्रेशर करती है कि जरा बात पे इतनी कंप्लेंट्स, ठीक है। और अगर कभी आप पेरेंट ओरिएंटेशन में आओ तो बड़ा प्राउडली एवरी चाइल्ड इज यूनिक, दिस दैट नॉनसेंस, बट जब कम्स टू कंप्लेंट, बच्चे का जरा सा कुछ हो जाएगा, इतना टॉर्चर कर देते हैं ना। अब जैसे ये बच्चा है, इसका क्या मेंटल स्टेट रहा होगा पिछले 2-3 महीने में, जहाँ से आप खड़े होकर देखने में डरते हो नीचे। अगला बच्चा कूद गया, और 10वीं का बच्चा क्या सुसाइड नोट लिख के जा रहा है कि किसी और बच्चे के साथ ऐसा ना हो जाए, तो मैं इसलिए ये कर रहा हूँ, मेरे ऑर्गन डोनेट कर देना। मतलब आप सोचो कि किस मेंटल स्टेट से गुजर रहा होगा बच्चा। एक्चुअली क्या है, जितने रेप्यूटेड स्कूल हो जाते हैं ना, फिर वो ये सोचते हैं कि अब तो हमने आना है, पेरेंट्स की मजबूरी है, TC की धमकी देते हैं। व्हाट द नॉनसेंस कि बच्चा पढ़ा रहे हैं, 12-12 हज़ार रुपये मंथली फीस दे रहे हैं, और उसके बाद हम ये धमकियाँ से हैं। तो ये इस बार तो गवर्नमेंट को कुछ एक्शन जरूर ले जाना चाहिए, क्योंकि स्कूल्स के ऊपर कोई कंट्रोल नहीं है, नीदर ऑन फीस नॉर ऑन दिस टाइप ऑफ नॉनसेंस एक्टिविटीज विच आर हैपनिंग इन द स्कूल। बच्चे की उंगली कट गई, इनको इतना नहीं है कि लेके जाते तो अगर हैंड टू हैंड।
तो एक बच्चे ने अपनी जान भी गंवा दी है।
फ्रेंड्स आपको कुछ बताना चाहते हैं?
आप सब लोग उनके फ्रेंड्स हैं?
यस।
तो आपके क्लासमेट था?
मेरा क्लासमेट था।
उनका क्लासमेट था, मेरा सेक्शन में क्लोज फ्रेंड था पर
थे। तो कभी शौर्य ने आप लोगों से डिस्कस किया, आप लोगों को कुछ बताया कभी?
नहीं,
उसने
वो
ऐसे
ऐसे फन लविंग पर्सन था, उससे कभी एक्सपेक्ट नहीं करा था कि वो इतना बड़ा ऐसे ग्रेव स्टेप ले सकता है। हम उसको मैं 7th से जानता था, बहुत अच्छा दोस्त था, हमारा क्लब भी सेम था, बहुत ऐसे फन लविंग पर्सन था। बस ब्रेक
टीचर जब ये करते होंगे तो आप लोगों के सामने ही तो करते होंगे कि कभी प्रेशर बनाना या वो
जिस दिन जब ये हुआ था तो उस दिन टीचर ने उसे बहुत ज़्यादा डांटा था, उसे वो भी किया था कि मतलब टीसी दे देंगे, तो बहुत ज़्यादा रो भी रहा था। छुट्टी
बहुत टॉर्चर क्लास टीचर सब करते हैं, सारे बच्चे को टॉर्चर करते हैं, बच्चा सुसाइड करने पे मजबूर हो जाता है। इस स्कूल में इतना पैसा देंगे बच्चे को, बच्चा कमजोर है तभी तो आप देख रहे हैं, लेकिन बच्चा पे कोई एक्शन नहीं देते हैं। पेरेंट्स को बुलाओ, टीसी दे देंगे, टॉर्चर बच्चा को। एक बच्चा 50 बच्चा में एक बच्चा सही है तो उस पर पूरा फोकस दिया जाता है, जो बच्चा वीक है उस पर ध्यान नहीं दिया जाता है। टॉर्चर कितना बच्चा को, बच्चा उतना, हम उसके साथ गए थे जिस दिन बच्चा ऐसे किया है, मेरे साथ टोटो पे बैठ के बच्चा गया है, इतना घबराया लगा था उसको कोई मार रहा है, इस तरह वो कर रहा था।
जिस दिन उसने
हाँ, तब जाके पता चला। यहाँ पे बैठा टोटो पे, बोली बेटा क्या हुआ? बोले मैम आंटी आप अपने बेटे को नाम कटवा लो। बोले कि हुआ क्या है बेटा, क्यों नाम कटवाऊँ? नहीं आंटी आप नाम कटवा लो बच्चे का, हम इस स्कूल में आके बहुत बड़ा गलती किए हैं। बोले हुआ क्या बेटा? नहीं टीचर बहुत खराब है, हमको इतना टॉर्चर करते हैं, पेरेंट्स भी बोलते हैं कि तुम्हारा गलती है। कहाँ जाएगा बच्चा? 4 बार ऐसा हो चुका है, हर बच्चा पे गलत असर पड़ रहा है ना। ये सारी मैम ऐसे ही है, सारी मैम ऐसे है, सारा क्लास के बच्चे।
देखिए जिस तरीके से जो पेरेंट्स हैं। हाँ
जी मैम, मैं भी बताना चाहूँगा कि मैम शौर्य मेरा बहुत अच्छा दोस्त था और ऐसे अचानक सुन के बड़ा बुरा लगा। जो भी सब हुआ, क्या कहते हैं, मैं समझ सकता हूँ, बहुत बुरा हुआ। उसके घर वाले भी परेशान होंगे, आई थिंक सो। हाँ, पर मेरे को ऐसे बड़ा तेज सदमा लगा कि अचानक से क्या हो गया शौर्य को। हाँ, फिर बाद में पता लगा कि टीचर्स ने उसे बहुत हरास किया था, इस कारण शौर्य ने ये स्टेप लिया।
क्लासमेट था
मेरा 10th का ही था, 10th बी का था, वो मेरा बहुत अच्छा दोस्त था।
तो वो जो टीचर्स पे इल्जाम लग रहा है, क्या वो ऐसे और बच्चों के साथ भी करते हैं क्या?
मैम ऑलमोस्ट आप मान लो इट इज राइट मैम।
स्कूल के अंदर होता है ये, पूरे स्कूल के अंदर होता है। बच्चों को सुनने नहीं देते आवाज़, बच्चों को उठाने देते नहीं आवाज़। कोई बच्चा उठाता है तो कोई खड़ा नहीं होता, सारे डरा के रखते हैं। सारे वो ब्लैकमेल करते हैं कि आपके मार्क्स काट लेंगे, प्री बोर्ड्स के अंदर मार्क्स नहीं देंगे आपको। और अगर कोई खड़ा होता है कुछ नहीं आता सपोर्ट। बोलते बहुत है यहाँ पर कि ये बहुत बढ़िया स्कूल है, सुसाइड कर लेते हैं, कुछ होता नहीं यहाँ पर। हमारा ब्रेन वॉश करा जाता है काउंसलर से, और यहाँ पर बोला जाता है कि ये बस इन सोशल मीडिया की वजह से हुआ है।
बिल्कुल, तो देखिए आप देख सकते हैं स्कूल के बाहर, हम इस वक्त उसी स्कूल के बाहर मौजूद हैं जहां शौर्य पढ़ा करता था। और एक कहीं ना कहीं जो लोग हैं उनकी भीड़ जमावड़ा जो है आपको यहाँ पे नज़र आ रहा होगा। और हर कोई यहाँ पर ये डिमांड कर रहा है कि जो टीचर्स थे स्कूल के, उनके अगेंस्ट आवाज़ जो है, उनको अरेस्ट जो है वो यहाँ पर करना चाहिए। और ये देखिए ये वो सुसाइड नोट है जो शौर्य ने लिखा था, जो उनकी कज़न सिस्टर जो है वो लेकर यहाँ पर पहुँची हुई है। क्या लिखा है
उसमें? टीचर्स के नाम मेंशन करे, 3 टीचरों से बहुत हरेस्ट कर रहे थे, कभी कहते थे टीसी दे देंगे, कभी सस्पेंड कर देंगे। बिना गलती के उसे बिन मतलब टीचर ने पुश करा। जिस दिन उसने सुसाइड करा वो गिर गया, प्रिंसिपल ने उसी को डांटा, टीचर को कोई कुछ नहीं कहा, और सब बच्चों ने उसका मजाक बनाया। और अभी एक टीचर मतलब उसका एक दोस्त है, उसकी मम्मी आई थी, उन्होंने बताया उसने काउंसलर को सुसाइड के बारे में पहले बताया था कि मैं सुसाइड का प्लान कर रहा हूँ, 1-1.5 महीने पहले की बात है। बट काउंसलर ने या टीचर्स ने कोई इन्फॉर्मेशन नहीं दी है घर वालों को। हम चाहते हैं कि टीचर्स को सस्पेंड किया जाए और उन्हें कहीं पे भी कोई जॉब ना मिले।
शौर्य ने पहले भी इस तरीके से पेरेंट्स को बताया हुआ था,
आए भी थे।
क्या बात हुई थी?
टीचर्स ने पेरेंट्स को गलत बोल दिया, बट खुद कोई भी अपनी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी नहीं ली, और अभी भी नहीं ले रहे हैं वो अपनी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी।
तो देखिए
डराया जा रहा था कि आप अपने घर पे भी मत बताओ, ऐसे सब बच्चों को याद हो रहा है। ये रहे एक बच्चे।
बिल्कुल, तो देखिए बच्चे हैं वो भी कहीं ना कहीं अपनी आवाज़ उठा रहे हैं, शौर्य के क्लासमेट्स हैं। और आप देखिए किस तरीके से वी वांट जस्टिस का जो यहाँ पर बोर्ड शौर्या की पिक्चर के साथ यहाँ पर लोग जो है वो पहुँचे हुए हैं। अ लाइफ लॉस इज़ नॉट एन इंसिडेंट, टेक रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी। तो पेरेंट्स ये मांग कर रहे हैं कि जो टीचर्स हैं जिनकी वजह से शौर्या की जान गई, वो कहीं ना कहीं रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी ले और उनको सस्पेंड जो है वो कर देना चाहिए। देखिए यहाँ पर किस तरीके से एक बड़ा पोस्टर लेकर ये प्रोटेस्ट जो है वो यहाँ पर किया जा रहा है और शौर्या जिस बच्चे की जान गई है उसके लिए ये पेरेंट्स जो है वो यहाँ पर इकट्ठा हुए हैं ताकि उसको जस्टिस जो है वो मिल सके और तमाम ऐसे बच्चे जो अभी भी इस स्कूल में पढ़ रहे हैं कहीं ना कहीं उनके लिए और खतरा ना हो या फिर उनके साथ ऐसा कुछ ना हो, इसके लिए भी पेरेंट्स जो है वो अपनी आवाज़ उठा रहे हैं। मैं आरजू सेठ, कैमरा पर्सन अंकुश के साथ, इंडिया न्यूज़, न्यूज़ दिल्ली।
अगर आप बनना चाहते हैं एंकर या फिर आप में है जुनून एक तेज तर्रार न्यूज रिपोर्टर बनने का, तो आप ज्वाइन करें ITV और इंडिया न्यूज न्यूज़x का मीडिया स्कूल। ITV नेक्स्ट मीडिया इंटरनेशनल स्कूल का कोर्स आपको मौका देता है देश के दिग्गज एंकर्स के साथ काम करने का। ITV नेक्स्ट मीडिया इंटरनेशनल स्कूल में आप बेहद नजदीकी से देख पाएंगे किस तरह से ITV नेटवर्क के दिग्गज पत्रकारों की टीम दिन रात खबरों पर काम करती है। इस कोर्स के दौरान आप सीखेंगे एंकरिंग की एक एक बारीकी उन एंकर्स के साथ जो देश को रखते हैं हर खबर से बाखबर। ITV नेक्स्ट मीडिया इंटरनेशनल स्कूल का ये कोर्स आपके एंकरिंग स्किल्स को करेगा इतना सशक्त, मजबूत, जिससे आप बनेंगे पत्रकारिता की दुनिया का वो चमकता चेहरा जो दुनिया देखेगी और पसंद करेगी।
Welcome back. You're watching Deep Dive by Newsx with me, Devika Devan. In a major development, the United States has approved 2 major military sales to India worth $93 million, equipping New Delhi with cutting-edge anti-tank missiles and precision artillery to bolster its defense and deterrence capabilities. According to the Defense Security Cooperation Agency, the U.S. State Department has cleared a $45.7 million sale of the FGM-148 Javelin anti-tank guided missile system, which includes 100 Javelin missiles, 25 command launch units, 1 fly-to-buy round along with training, simulation equipment, spare parts and full life cycle support. On the same day, Washington also greenlit a $47.1 million package for the M98 2A1 Excalibur precision guided artillery shells. This deal involves up to 216 Excalibur rounds and includes fire control systems, propellants, technical assistance and logistical support. Both weapons are already used in limited numbers in the Indian Army. The new deals are aimed at replenishing the inventory, expanding operational capacity and enhancing interoperability with the US defense system. The Javelin systems, jointly produced by RTX and Lockheed Martin, allow infantry units to strike armored targets at long range with high accuracy. Excalibur rounds provide GPS-guided precision for artillery units, a capability India has previously used to reduce collateral damage. So what will India get in this package? The Government of India has requested to buy 100 FGM-148 Javelin rounds, 1 Javelin FGM-148 missile and 25 Javelin lightweight command launch units or the Javelin Block 1 command launch units. The other non-major defense equipment items will also be included, which are the Javelin LW-CLU or the CLU basic skills trainers, missile simulation rounds, battery coolant unit, interactive electronic technical manual, the Javelin operator manuals, life cycle support, physical security inspection, spare parts system integration and checkout, security assistance management directorate, technical assistance, along with tactical aviation and ground munitions, project office, technical assistance, toolkits, training and other related elements of logistics and program support. If you're wondering at this point in time, what really are the Javelin missiles? Well, according to Lockheed Martin, the Javelin missile system is a man-portable anti-tank guided weapon that uses a fire-and-forget infrared seeker, allowing the operator to lock on before launch and immediately relocate after firing. The missile supports both top attack to hit the weaker roof armor of tanks and direct attack modes for bunkers or other targets. It features a tandem-shaped charge warhead designed to defeat reactive and conventional armor, and the launch unit includes both day and thermal sighting options. Javelin missile is the world's premier shoulder-fired anti-armor system. The manufacturer has said that the Javelin automatically guides itself to the target after launch, allowing the gunner to take cover and avoid counter fire. Soldiers can reposition immediately after firing or reload to another location and engage another threat. The missile itself is housed in a disposable launch tube, while the sighting and control functions are carried on a reusable command launch unit, which includes, the command launch unit includes day and thermal imaging modes, allowing the weapon to be used in varied environments at any time of day and in difficult weather conditions. Javelin was developed and produced for the U.S. Army and Marine Corps by the Javelin joint venture between Lockheed Martin in Orlando, Florida, and Raytheon in Tucson, Arizona. It has an arched top attack profile that allows it to climb above its target for improved visibility and then strikes where the armor is the weakest. As per the manufacturer, the missile has a soft launch design and can be safely fired from inside buildings and bunkers. So why really do armies today rely on this system? Well, the Javelin missile has proved its destructive capability on several battlefields, most notably in Ukraine, where Russian T-72 and T-90 tanks were destroyed in large numbers. The weapon is in operational service with multiple militaries worldwide, including Ukrainian forces. Considered one of the world's most advanced shoulder-launch anti-tank weapons, the Javelin is a third-generation top attack system designed to strike vehicles from above, where armor is typically weakest. The weapon has two attack modes. Its top attack profile is designed to climb and descend onto the upper surfaces of the tanks, where the armor is the weakest. It also has a direct attack option for bunkers, buildings, targets under cover, or vehicles at closer range. The system has been used extensively in Afghanistan and Iraq, with more than 5,000 documented engagements. It can be employed from multiple platforms, although the man-portable configuration is its most recognizable or widely used form. On the other hand, what will India now get in these Excalibur projectiles package? The government of India is requested to buy up to 216 M98 2A1 Excalibur tactical projectiles. The non-major defense equipment items will also include in the sale kit, which are ancillary items such as portable electronic fires with improved platform integration kits, primers, propellant chargers, US government technical assistance, the technical data, repair and return services, and other related elements of logistics and program support. The estimated total cost is $47.1 million. What exactly are these projectiles? According to US defense manufacturing company Raytheon, the Excalibur projectile is a 155mm GPS-guided extended-range artillery shell that uses a jam-resistant internal GPS receiver, internal navigation system to steer, offering in-flight precision with a missed distance of under 2 meters. It supports multiple fuse modes, making it versatile and effective even in complex terrain and urban environments. Raytheon claims that one Excalibur round can often replace many conventional shells, greatly reducing the number of rounds needed and minimizing collateral damage. It is a precision weapon that provides accurate first round effects at all ranges in all weather conditions. The Excalibur is set to increase precision, minimize collateral damage, and reduce the logistical burden for artillery forces. Now, we're wondering, how does the Javelin system help India? Firstly, the system's tandem-shaped charge warhead and top attack profile are designed to defeat both reactive and conventional armor. This is directly relevant to India's anti-armor needs. The fire and forget seeker allows operators to fire and immediately relocate. The soft launch capability makes it usable from within enclosed spaces, a significant tactical advantage. The DSCA has repeatedly stated that the system in the deal will increase India's first strike accuracy. This applies to both the Javelin and the Excalibur components. India's military has been acquiring more US systems over the years, and the Javelin purchase adds another layer of compatibility for joint training and operations. Lastly, the approval notes that the sale contributes to India's efforts to strengthen deterrence and homeland defense in line with ongoing modernization of its firepower and mobility. Now, I take this conversation forward with Major General Gigi Dwivedi joining us on the broadcast. Major General Dwivedi, I've tried my best, sir, to summarize what this is, but your expertise will really help in breaking down for our viewers why is this important for India? Why is it important for us to have a shoulder-fired anti-tank missile system versus some of the other more conventional methods? And given that people have these questions about what the future of warfare really will be.
Well, Devika, I think you have given a very detailed overview and gone into the most of the technical facets of these two systems that India is going to procure. Well, these systems procurement is part of the ongoing defense cooperation between India and US, which has been actually since about 2008. We have been cooperating with America, not only in the purchase of weapon systems, but we have signed 5 very major agreements. We are also training with the US Army, both in the land, air, and the naval facets, and also increasing our interoperability. Now, coming specifically to these two, systems that we are going to purchase, firstly is the anti-tank weapon system, that is the FGM-148 Javelin. Primarily, it's an anti-armor system, and it is a third generation system. It has a couple of very important characteristics. Some of them you highlighted, but I'll further elaborate. Now, it is a shoulder fired. Primarily, it's an infantry weapon, and it's a weapon which has all weather capability, means you can fire during the night or day or during bad weather. Secondly, as it is shoulder fired, it's very easy to handle. And thirdly, it has two basic systems. One is the launch, which is fired from the shoulder or from any other configuration. And secondly, it has a control unit. What happens is that the firer aligns the system launcher with the target, and once the cursor is fixed, then this control unit, it locks on the target. Once the target is locked on, then it's a 100% hit. So that's why it is very potent and a very effective weapon system. Its range is about 2,500 meters, but it can also be extended to 4,000 meters. And very important part is once you fire, the firer then can relocate so that it is not targeted by the hostile fire, because the control unit takes over the functions. And as you rightly said, we are procuring 100 in the initial tranche and 25 control units, and then possibly more will come, but these will basically equip the infantry units. And currently, I think there is a little void as far as the anti-tank capability is concerned. We are still holding on to very vintage weapon systems like Milan or Concords. So this will give us tremendous capability to the infantrymen as far as the anti-tank capability is concerned. And second, you talked about the Excalibur. Well, today we are talking about the precision, guided ammunition. Just to give you a point, that when you fire a conventional artillery shell from, let's say, 155 mm gun, well, its circular error probability means it can land anywhere in 250 meters. But when you launch a precision guided munition, its circular error probability is barely 5 to 6 meters, means you can actually hit the target very precisely, you can avoid the collateral damage, and you can also save on ammunition, because ammunition is a very big logistic issue as far as the RT is concerned. And having operated in number of areas like Siachen, where if you have to actually carry the logistic in a very, very difficult terrain, these precision guided ammunition can do the job of hundreds of rounds with one particular round. So all I can say is that these two systems will give us tremendous capability in our fighting, both in the tactical and operational scenario. and it's a part of the ongoing process of collaboration and cooperation between India and the US. Over to you, Devika.
All right. So thank you so much for joining us with that perspective. That's all the time that I have, viewers. I step into a very short break.
लाल रंग इसका अपार, तीखा कम है फिर भी स्वाद, बेमिसाल बेमिसाल MDH कश्मीरी,
MDH कश्मीरी,
MDH।
Now it's not just the parents but the kids themselves are going and looking for partners.
Where you meet and where you vibe and who you feel like, you know, is going to be your partner.
It could be a state ID. So they upload that. So at least the basics of their age, their first and last name and their gender. So at least that on AnviMet, you know, we are sure what we are getting.
You need to have a validation on the background check. You need to know what about his earnings. Watch We Women Want at these times on Newsx.
MDH केसर का हो बहाना,
कश्मीरी पुलाव या हो बिरयानी खाना,
केसरी चाय दूध,
रसमलाई केसरी लड्डू, हलवा याद आना, यही तो है MDH केसर का बहाना।
MDH शुद्ध केसर, खुशबू ऐसी जो दिल जीत ले।
MDH
A transnational terror nexus with links to Turkey, Syria and Pakistan. Encrypted group chats under scrutiny. Bomb-making videos sent by handlers. Forensic examination unearths the Red Fort blast trail.
All right, well, the Red Fort blast investigation has unfolded into one of the most complex and far-reaching counter-terror operations in recent times, stretching far beyond the immediate geography of Delhi and into the networks of transnational radical groups operating out of Turkey, Syria and of course, Pakistan. Hello and welcome. You're watching Explain with me, Vineet Malhotra. Today, we are discussing Delhi blast's international connection and its similarity to the 2022 blasts in Coimbatore. At the heart of the investigation are three figures who shared a common background and, as authorities now believe, a common pathway into radicalization. Dr. Muzammil Ganai, Dr. Umar Nabi and Dr. Adil, all educated and seemingly integrated into middle-class professional life. Investigators believe that all three took a trip to Turkey in 2022. This trip marked a significant turning point that connected them to elements operating along the Turkey-Syria corridor. This region has long served as a fertile ground for foreign recruitment, arms training, digital radicalization and remote operations coordination. It is being believed that all three met the Syrian operative during their 20-day-long stay in Turkey. Allegedly, the arrangement was made by Ukasa, a handler from the banned terror group Jaish-e-Mohammed. Ukasa, who was earlier believed to be operating from Turkey, is now being suspected to be hiding along the Pakistan-Afghanistan border. They were supposed to meet Ukasa, but that never happened. Instead, he directed them to a Syrian representative. Investigators say that Adil then traveled from Turkey to Afghanistan via the UAE and is believed to have joined Al-Qaeda. Umar also wanted to go to Afghanistan, but Ukasa allegedly instructed him to return to India for what he called bigger plans of the Jaish-e-Mohammed. Umar Ubaid came back, joined Al-Falah University in Faridabad and set up a module there, starting to collect explosives for further attacks. Officials have identified at least two key foreign handlers apart from Ukasa. They have been identified as Hanzullah and Nisar. These could be pseudonyms and not real identities. Now, the biggest revelations that also connects it with the 2022 Coimbatore terrorist blast, I beg your pardon. The person using the identity of Hanzullah is alleged to have spent over 42 videos on bomb making to Dr. Ganai, who allegedly arranged storage for explosives used by the module. These videos were not sent through regular channels but through encrypted platforms like Signal and Telegram, where the use of Vanish timers, double layers of encryption, and multiple dummy profiles made it easy for them to conceal their identities. Encrypted groups, in fact, made it quite easy for all these parties to come together and create an eyewash of sorts. Well, we're going to be taking a very short break. On that note, we'll continue talking about this on the other side. We'll be right back.
Terror Nexus, with links to Turkey, Syria and Pakistan. Encrypted group chats under scrutiny. Bomb-making videos sent by handlers. Forensic examination unearths the Red Fort blast trail.
MDH की देगी मिर्च,
देगी मिर्च का तड़का, अंग अंग फड़का।
MDH की देगी मिर्च।
Now it's not just the parents but the kids themselves are going and looking for partners.
Where you meet and where you vibe and who you feel like, is going to be your partner.
Could be a state ID. So they upload that. So at least the basics of their age, their first and last name and their gender. So at least that on AnviMet, we are sure what we are getting.
You need to have a validation on the background check. You need to know what about his earnings. Watch We Women Want at these times on Newsx.
अब छोलिया हो या लोबिया, सफेद चने या काले चने, सब कुछ मजेदार बने। MDH।
Now it's not just the parents but the kids themselves are going and looking for partners.
Where you meet and where you vibe and who you feel like, is going to be your partner.
Could be a state ID. So they upload that. So at least the basics of their age, their first and last name and their gender. So at least that on AnviMet, we are sure what we are getting.
You need to have a validation on the background check. You need to know what about his earnings. Watch We Women Want at these times on Newsx.
अब आया असली स्वाद।
अब आया स्वाद।
जब स्वाद के पड़े हो लाले तो MDH का चंकी चाट मसाला डालें। MDH का चंकी चाट मसाला।
MDH।
Now it's not just the parents but the kids themselves are going and looking for partners.
Where you meet and where you vibe and who you feel like, is going to be your partner.
Could be a state ID. So they upload that. So at least the basics of their age, their first and last name and their gender. So at least that on AnviMet, we are sure what we are getting.
You need to have a validation on the background check. You need to know what about his earnings. Watch We Women Want at these
a transnational terror nexus with links to Turkey, Syria, and Pakistan. Encrypted group chats under scrutiny. Bomb-making videos sent by handlers. Forensic examination unearths the Red Fort blast trail.
All right, well, the Red Fort blast investigation has unfolded into one of the most complex and far-reaching counter-terror operations in recent years, stretching far beyond the immediate geography of Delhi and into the networks of transnational radical groups operating out of Turkey, Syria, and of course Pakistan. Hello and welcome. You're watching Explained with me, Vineet Malhotra. Today we are discussing Delhi blast's international connection and its similarity to the 2022 blasts in Coimbatore. At the heart of the investigation are three figures who shared a common background and, as authorities now believe, a common pathway into radicalization. Dr. Muzammil Ganai, Dr. Umar Nabi and Dr. Adil, all educated and seemingly integrated into middle-class professional life. Investigators believe that all three took a trip to Turkey in 2022. This trip marked a significant turning point that connected them to elements operating along the Turkey-Syria corridor. This region has long served as a fertile ground for foreign recruitment, arms training, digital radicalization and remote operations coordination. It is being believed that all three met the Syrian operative during their 20-day long stay in Turkey. Allegedly, the arrangement was made by Ukasa, a handler from the banned terror group Jaish-e-Mohammed. Ukasa, who was earlier believed to be operating from Turkey, is now being suspected to be hiding along the Pakistan-Afghanistan border. They were supposed to meet Ukasa, but that never happened. Instead, he directed them to a Syrian representative. Investigators say that Adil then travelled from Turkey to Afghanistan via the UAE and believed to have joined Al-Qaeda. Umar also wanted to go to Afghanistan, but Ukasa allegedly instructed him to return to India for what he called bigger plans of the Jaish-e-Mohammed. Umar obeyed, came back, joined Al-Falah University in Faridabad and set up a module there, starting to collect explosives for future attacks. Officials have identified at least two key foreign handlers apart from Ukasa. They have been identified as Hanzullah and Nisar. Well, these could be pseudonyms and not real identities. And now the biggest revelations that also connect it with the 2022 Coimbatore terrorist blast. The person using the identity of Hanzullah is alleged to have sent over 42 videos on bomb making to Dr. Ganai, who allegedly arranged storage for explosives used by the module. These videos were not sent through regular channels but through encrypted platforms like Signal and Telegram, where the use of vanished timers, double layers of encryption and multiple dummy profiles made tracing difficult. Encrypted groups, sometimes with just 4 or 5 members and sometimes with broader networks, were used to share material, hold discussions and provide remote training. Security officials say that the chats reveal a deliberate effort to operate under the radar using VPN chains, temporary number registrations and cloud backups that were regularly deleted or migrated across accounts. What made the recovery of these chats possible was a combination of device seizure, cloud retrieval and data fragments left behind despite attempts by the accused to erase evidence. Well, now another name has emerged at the center of this web, a foreign handler called Mohammed Shahid Faisal. He operates under aliases like Colonel, Laptop Bhai and Bhai. Faisal has been on the radar of security agencies for years and is believed to have coordinated multiple terror modules in Karnataka and Tamil Nadu since 2020. He's linked to 3 major incidents: the Coimbatore car suicide blast in October 22, the Mangaluru auto rickshaw blast in November 2022 and the Bengaluru Rameshwaram cafe blast in March 2024. Faisal is also known as Zakir Ustad. He was an engineering graduate from Bengaluru. He went missing in 2012 after the Lashkar-e-Taiba module of young engineers and doctors was busted in the city. Investigators say he fled to Pakistan and has more recently been operating from the Syria-Turkey border. According to sources, Faisal moved to the Syria-Turkey border more recently and his identity was established in the NIA probe of Rameshwaram cafe blast, where he has been named as an absconding accused. Interestingly, Ukasa is also believed to be based in Turkey. This is the first link. Security agencies now say there may be a direct link between the Delhi incident and the recent blast in Karnataka and Tamil Nadu through a shared remote handler, all based in Syria or Turkey. The Red Fort blast also closely mirrors the Coimbatore suicide car bomb attack of October 2022, where a young engineer, Jamesha Mubin, died after triggering an LPG and IED-based explosion outside a temple. Searches after that blast recovered chemicals like potassium nitrate and red phosphorus, along with a pen drive holding self-recorded confession videos. The second link. The NIA found that Mubin and his associates learnt do-it-yourself bomb-making techniques online, exactly the pattern being seen in the Red Fort case. Now, this is the third link. A similar pattern emerged in the Mangaluru blast case, where a college dropout, Mohammad Sharik, was trained remotely by handlers using encrypted apps and was injured after his IED exploded prematurely in an auto rickshaw. Since the Red Fort blast, security agencies have been questioning key ISIS-linked accused in jails across Karnataka and Tamil Nadu to identify whether the same handlers were also behind the Delhi module. More revelations are coming to the fore apart from this connection. Dr. Muzammil Shakil reportedly used a floor mill to prepare chemicals for explosives. He operated the machine at his rented room in Faridabad. It is the same place from where the police recovered 360 kg of ammonium nitrate and other explosives a day before the blast that rocked Delhi. Shakil allegedly grounded urea in the floor mill to obtain a finer consistency. He then processed it further using an electrical device to refine it into chemical components. His medical license was also recently cancelled. As the investigation unfolds, the cloud of details grow. One central reality stands out. This case has revealed how fragile the line is between the ordinary and the extremists, how quickly certain individuals can be pulled into a transnational network, and how encrypted digital spaces have become the new ground zero for remote recruitment and training. As the investigation expands, more facts are likely to emerge. More individuals may come under scrutiny, and more layers of international network will be exposed. For now, the Red Fort blast case remains an urgent reminder of the new digital borderless shape of terror modules in the 21st century.
A transnational terror nexus with links to Turkey, Syria and Pakistan. Encrypted group chats under scrutiny. Bomb-making videos sent by handlers. Forensic examination unearths the Red Fort blast trail.
Now it's not just the parents, but the kids themselves are going and looking for partners.
Where you meet and where you vibe and who you feel like, is going to be your partner.
It would be a state ID. So they upload that. So at least the basics of their age, their first and last name and their gender. So at least that on AnviMet, we are sure what we are getting.
You need to have a validation on the background check. You need to know what about his earnings. What we women want at
The China-Japan diplomatic row explodes. A window of opportunity for India. Big catch for the Indian seafood industry as Beijing bans Japanese imports. Relief after pressure from steep US tariffs. Can India capitalize on this momentum?
Hello and welcome. You're watching another episode of Newsx Explained with me, Vineet Malhotra. Today we look at a fascinating shift in global trade dynamics, one where geopolitical tensions and tariff pressures are reshaping seafood supply chains, and Indian exporters may emerge as key beneficiaries. At the heart of this story is an escalating diplomatic crisis between China and Japan. The immediate trigger for the crisis was Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takai's remarks linking a potential Chinese action against Taiwan to a survival-threatening situation for Japan. The most recent spat between two of Asia's biggest countries is an uneasy history marred by rivalry and strategic mistrust, intensified following the Japanese Prime Minister's comments pertaining to Taiwan. On the 7th of November, speaking to a parliamentary committee, Takaichi said that a Chinese naval blockade or other action against Taiwan could be grounds for a Japanese military response. Referring to possible Chinese action in Taiwan, she asserted, and I quote, "If it involves the use of warships and military actions, it could by all means become a survival-threatening situation." While previous Japanese prime ministers have expressed concern about China's threat to Taiwan and said that Taiwan's stability is vital to Japan's own security, they have not publicly specified how Tokyo would respond in the event of a Taiwan contingency, instead choosing to embrace strategic ambiguity. The Japanese Prime Minister's comments sparked not just diplomatic but an economic response from China. Asia's largest economy flexed its economic muscle, reinstating a full ban on Japanese seafood imports. China's foreign ministry went as far as to say that there is no market for Japanese seafood in the current climate. China, which seems to be seeking to make an example out of Takaichi and Japan, implemented a string of punitive measures on Japan aimed at hurting Tokyo's trade and travel. Foremost among these is China suspending imports of Japanese seafood just months after it partly lifted a previous ban issued in 2023. China has historically been Japan's largest seafood market, a spot that has overtaken by the United States after China's previous ban on Japanese seafood imports in 2023 in response to Japan's decision to release wastewater from the damaged and decommissioned Fukushima nuclear plant. And before the 2023 ban, however, China and Hong Kong accounted for more than 1/5 of Japan's seafood exports. With China taking up around 20% of Japan's exports, especially high-end products like sea cucumbers and scallops, the ban is a serious hit to Japan's fishing industry. While the confrontation between China and Japan sees no signs of slowing down, the clash has opened up a window of opportunity for India. In an amusing silver lining, shares of Indian seafood companies jumped sharply following Chinese action on Japan. Hit by steep tariffs by the Trump administration, India's seafood industry has gained with China's curbs on Japanese imports. Indian exporters witnessed a major boost as China effectively, shut its door to Japanese seafood. Shares of Indian seafood exporters jumped as much as 11% soon after China's order came into effect. Shares of Telangana-based Avanti Feeds, an integrated seafood company, closed nearly 10% higher, its strongest daily gain in over 2 months. Meanwhile, those of Coastal Corporation, one of leading producers and exporters of seafood in India, rose 5%. Coastal Corporation had in fact announced plans earlier this year to ramp up shipments to China and other markets as part of efforts to reduce exposure to the United States after it erected trade barriers. Overall, Indian seafood stocks climbed by as much as 11% on the 19th of November, shortly after media reports said that China had informed Japan of its intention to halt seafood imports. This comes as the development points to a redirection of Chinese demand to suppliers like India. The shift will also be a major boost for Indian seafood exporters who have been under pressure due to steep US tariffs. The China-Japan feud may thus prove to be a major relief for India. Coming on the heels of the United States, President Donald Trump's steep India tariffs, China's action may provide a breather for India's seafood exporters, who so far were heavily dependent on the US market. The United States remains India's largest seafood market, supplying major retail chains including Walmart and Kroger. Seafood makes up an integral part of India's export market, with total seafood exports reaching $7.4 billion last year, with shrimp contributing 40% of the value. With higher tariffs affecting outbound shipments, exporters have been exploring new markets. Market analysts have long stated that any fresh demand prospects would be encouraging for the industry. With the latest geopolitical developments, there are several factors that may make India a logical alternative for China's seafood demand. Firstly, of course, is India's own need of diversification away from the US. India's seafood exporters have been actively looking to reduce their dependence on the US market because of steep tariffs, some reportedly up to 50%, that have squeezed profit margins. Secondly, even before this China-Japan skirmish, Indian producers were shifting focus to Southeast Asia and China to spread risk, with Asian markets providing a prime location. The Indian government has also proved a major backer, approving a substantial support package of nearly rupees 450 billion rupees for its labor-intensive export sectors, including seafood. Most significant amongst those factors possibly is the growing strength of India's seafood market. As we know, in the last fiscal year, India's total seafood exports stood at $7.4 billion US. Indian seafood exports also recently hit a historic high in volume, with India shipping 1.78 million metric tons of seafood in the year 23-24, valued at over 60,000 crore rupees. To sum up, India has the volume, the capability and infrastructure to scale up further, especially with a major competitor, namely Japan, suddenly shut out. Apart from a significant boost for the domestic industry, the moment has also broader implications for India and many of its export-driven industries. Firstly, of course, is the way that industries like seafood can serve as geostrategic tools, giving India more weight in regional as well as global trade gains. Secondly, there is reduced concentration risk for the country by diversifying away from tariff-heavy or politically volatile risky markets, letting India stabilize export revenues with seafood industries pushing into newer and bigger markets. The moment will also provide significant policy reinforcement, showing that the government is serious about blocking labor-intensive exporters with its 450 billion rupees export support and the package. Finally, this provides avenues for long-term partnerships, allowing India to build deeper ties with China or even other Southeast Asian nations to build lasting and stable trade relationships. And so what started as a trade spat has kicked off a series of small and large recalibrations across the region. The event may signal broader shifts in Asia's trade architecture as China uses trade bans as diplomacy. Non-traditional players like India can benefit but must also exercise caution about becoming dependent on politically motivated demands. On the other hand, India's rise as a seafood exporter could be a microcosm of how it positions itself in Asia's emerging economic order, providing opportunity for it to display its flexibility and adaptability to a changing order. To sum up, China's suspension of Japanese seafood imports has proved to be a strategic opening for Indian seafood exporters, who are well placed to fill the gap. Backed by volume, the government support and a growing push into Asian markets, stocks of exporting companies have also surged, signaling optimism in the industry. But geopolitical driven demand is also volatile. For India to sustain this advantage, producers will need to ensure supply chain resilience, meet quality standards and guard against over-reliance on this charged market. If managed well, this isn't just a short-term windfall, it could be a turning point in how India export-led sectors leverage global power plays to their advantage.
The China-Japan diplomatic row explodes. A window of opportunity for India. Big catch for the Indian seafood industry as Beijing bans Japanese imports. Relief after pressure from steep US tariffs. Can India capitalize on this momentum?
Now it's not just the parents, but the kids themselves are going and looking for partners.
Where you meet and where you vibe and who you feel like, is going to be your partner.
Could be a state ID. So they upload that. So at least the basics of their age, their first and last name and their gender. So at least that on ANVIMET, we are sure what we are getting.
You need to have a validation on the background check. You need to know what about his earnings.
Watch We Women Want at these times on Newsx.
All right, welcome back. 2 days after a class 10 student from Delhi St. Columbus School jumped to his death at the Rajendra Place metro station, with his family alleging later that he faced harassment from teachers, the institution placed 4 members of its teaching staff under suspension. The Delhi government also set up a high-level committee to probe the incident. Shaurya Patil, a class 10 student at St. Columbus School, a leading private school in Delhi, was allegedly mocked and ill-treated by his teachers for a year. The child left behind a note blaming his school teachers of harassment. He wrote that his last wish was that no student should be treated the way he was, and said that the teachers he named in the note must be punished. According to Shaurya's father, Pradeep Patil, his son was scolded and publicly humiliated on the day he took his life. And after he fell during a dance practice on stage, a classmate of the student corroborated with whatever he had written in the 1.5-page note in his bag, saying that the boy was indeed being bullied by the teachers. Following this, a case was registered against the concerned school staffers under Section 107, which is abetment to suicide, and Section 3, which is common intention of criminal act of the Bharatiya Nyay Sanhita. This case has revealed a disturbing pattern of harassment, ignored complaints and systemic lapses at Delhi's St. Columbus School. We'll talk about this with our guest, but first up, I'm also joined by Mr. Pradeep Patil, father of the deceased student. प्रदीप जी, सबसे पहले नमस्कार। हमसे बातचीत करने के लिए आपका बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया। आपने समय निकाला और इस मुश्किल घड़ी में भी you have decided to speak to us, sir. I hope you can hear me.
बिल्कुल सुन रहा हूँ आपको, बस वीडियो नहीं दिख रही, मैं आपको सुन रहा हूँ।
सर, सबसे पहले जो हुआ, जिस तरीके से हुआ, ये एक रेप्यूटेड स्कूल में हुआ। सेंट कोलंबस एक मशहूर स्कूल है। थोड़ी देर पहले मैंने चर्चा भी की थी कि शाहरुख खान यहाँ से पढ़े हुए हैं और बाकी जो दिग्गज लोग हैं जो इस देश को चलाते हैं, जानी मानी हस्तियाँ हैं, वो इस स्कूल के पास आउट हैं। क्या प्रणाली थी इस पूरी घटना की और किस तरीके से आपके सुपुत्र को मिसट्रीट किया गया, आप बताएंगे हमें?
5 से 6 महीने पहले भी मतलब इसी साल मेरे इस बच्चे को थोड़ा सा ज़्यादा ही हरेस करना शुरू कर दिया था उन्होंने। तो 5-6 महीना पहले भी मैं गया था स्कूल में, कोऑर्डिनेटर मैडम को मिला था, प्रिंसिपल जो हेडमास्टर्स हैं उनको भी मिला था। तो मेरे बच्चे की जो कंप्लेंट्स थी, जो जिसलिए मुझे बुलाया था, वो मतलब एकदम मामूली सी थी। आपका बच्चा शरारती है, आपका बच्चा पीछे बैठ के चुटकुले करता है, क्लास जब चल रही है तो बीच में बातें करता है, बोलता है और मिमिक्री करता है। तो जैसे होमवर्क कंप्लीट नहीं है, मैम ये तो शरारत करेगा बच्चा ही तो शरारत करेगा, और कौन करेगा? ये छोटी कॉमन सी बात है। और उसके लिए अगर होमवर्क नहीं कंप्लीट किया तो मैं उसको समझा दूंगा। और हमें मार्क्स का इतना टेंशन नहीं है, लेकिन अब बच्चे को अच्छी तरह से पढ़ाना चाहिए, ये बात होती है। उसके बाद भी बीच में कुछ स्कूल में हुआ था, तो इसको प्रेशर देके बच्चों के नाम लिखवाने के लिए बोला था कि तुम किसी न किसी का नाम लिख दे, बोला है तो, नहीं तो किसी का भी नाम लिख दे। तो उसने मना कर दिया था, तो भी प्रेशर डलवा के नाम लिखा था। ये जिसको नाम लिखा था उनको भी बोला था कि भैया प्रेशर देके नाम लिखवाया जा रहा है। मैं बार बार बोल रहे थे कि तेरे को टीसी दे देंगे, टीसी दे देंगे। मेरा बेटा अदर एक्टिविटीज में बहुत अच्छा परफॉर्म करता था। 2 महीना पहले सेंट कोलंबस से को उसने रिप्रेजेंट किया था डांस कॉम्पिटिशन में, जो डॉन बॉस्को स्कूल में गए थे तब। अब कुछ दिन पहले टीचर ने बोला कि भाई तेरे को हम सस्पेंड करेंगे, तेरा टीसी देंगे। तो मुझे जब भी बोला था, अभी इसी मंडे को मेरी उससे बात हुई थी कि भाई तेरा स्कूल हम चेंज करेंगे, 10 दिन बचे हैं स्कूल के, और 20 मार्क्स जो सीबीएसई बोर्ड में प्रोविजन है कि स्कूल की तरफ से है, वो बिना मतलब के नुकसान ना कर ले, इसलिए टीचर्स को बोलना है। बस 10 दिन का बचा है, उसके बाद तो प्री बोर्ड के एग्जाम शुरू हो जाएंगे, फिर हम तेरा अगले साल से स्कूल चेंज करेंगे। तो उसने अपने बड़े भाई को बोल भी दिए थे, 2-3 ऑप्शंस भी दिए थे स्कूल चेंज करने के लिए। उसके बाद जब मंडे को उसने हमारे लिए आइसक्रीम और शेक भी वैसे भी मंगा लिया था, वो भी खा लिया था उसने। ट्यूसडे को स्कूल जब 7-7:15 बजे गया था, तो मम्मी को बोल के गया था कि आज हमें दिन में लंच बाहर से मंगाएंगे। इतनी सारी बातें करके, नॉर्मल करके, मेरे ड्राइवर के साथ ही डेली जाता था, ड्राइवर के साथ ही आता था। उसने ना ड्राइवर को कुछ ऐसी बातें बोली, ना कुछ किया।
आपको उसके बर्ताव से या उसकी बॉडी लैंग्वेज से पिछले कुछ महीनों में इस बात का एहसास हुआ कि शायद एक मानसिक तौर पर आपका बेटा परेशान है?
नहीं, ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं था। मानसिक परेशान हमें कोई ऐसा लगा नहीं है उसका, क्योंकि घर पे हमारे सबसे नॉर्मल होता था, नॉर्मल रहता था। हाँ, टीचर्स परेशान करते ये बोलता था, लेकिन इतनी परेशान करेगी और इतना बड़ा स्टेप उठाएगा ऐसे हमें नहीं लग रहा था वो। हाँ, परेशान जरूर लग रहा था कि हाँ, टीचर्स परेशान करती है, छोटी छोटी बातों की टीचर्स कंप्लेंट करती थी, तेरा टीसी दे देंगे, तेरा टीसी दे देंगे, ये मतलब छोटी छोटी बातों के लिए बोलते थे उसको।
प्रदीश भी, आपको क्या लगता है कि स्कूल की कितनी बड़ी गलती है? हालांकि हम सब जानते हैं कि एक नोट है जिसमें कुछ टीचर्स का नाम है, अबेटमेंट टू सुसाइड का भी मामला है अब जो सामने आया है, पर आपको क्या लगता है स्कूल की तरफ से क्या गैर जिम्मेदाराना बिहेवियर थी जिसकी वजह से आपके बेटे को यह कदम उठाना पड़ा?
देखो, इतना बड़ा कदम उठाया मेरे बेटे ने, और वो अभी मेरा बेटा नहीं रहा, पूरे देश का बेटा रहा है। लोग रोज प्रोटेस्ट कर रहे हैं, और ऐसे बेटे जैसे बहुत ही इंसिडेंट हो रहे, लेकिन उसको दबाया जाता है। मेरे बेटे ने बहुत बड़ी हिम्मत करके टीचर्स के नाम लिखे हैं, और उसने आगे लिखा है, सुसाइड नोट आपके पास आई होगी तो देख लो, कि मेरे बॉडी के कुछ ऑर्गन्स जो किसी के काम आते वो डोनेट कर लो, और मेरे जैसा कोई और बच्चा स्टेप ना उठाए, इसके लिए उनको कड़ी से कड़ी सजा मिलनी चाहिए। यही मेरी आखिरी ख्वाहिश है, यही मेरी आखिरी इच्छा है। ऐसा जो बच्चे ने लिखा है, मेरे बाप मतलब पापा मम्मी से माफी मांग रहा है, भाई से माफी मांग रहा है कि मैं अपने सपने पूरे नहीं कर पाया, बहुत गलतियां करी मम्मी, माफ भी करी अपने, लेकिन ये बहुत बड़ी गलती, आखिरी गलती कर रहा हूँ, ये भी मुझे माफ करना। इतना बड़ा लिखा है उसने। और जिस दिन ये ट्यूसडे को इंसिडेंट हुआ स्कूल में, तो जो उसके दोस्तों ने हमें बताया ये चीज, और कल भी कुछ बच्चों ने ऑन रिकॉर्ड और आपके मीडिया के सामने भी बोला है कि जब उसका प्रैक्टिस के टाइम कुछ पैर फिसल गया डांस में, तो टीचर ने उसको इतना डांटा कि वो रोने लगा। रोने के बाद उसको बोला कि मुझे कुछ नहीं फर्क पड़ता, तू जो करना है वो कर ले। इतनी गंदी लैंग्वेज उसकी, तो उसके सामने हेडमास्टर भी थी, लेकिन हेडमास्टर ने भी उसको कुछ ही नहीं बोला। तो उसने ये बोला कि मुझे सुसाइड के 3 आ रहे हैं मैडम। तो भी टीचर्स ने हमें, मेरा घर स्कूल से 1.5 किलोमीटर डिस्टेंस पे है, ना स्कूल की तरफ से कोई फोन आया, ना मैडम की तरफ से कोई फोन आया, बल्कि मेरा ड्राइवर गेट के बाहर ही खड़ा रहता है। उनको पता था कि मेरे प्राइवेट वैन से, प्राइवेट गाड़ी से आता है अपने, तो उन्होंने गेट तक छोड़ने की मेहनत भी नहीं करी। मतलब इतना गैर जिम्मेदार ना स्कूल है ये।
प्रदीप जी, इस घटना के बाद स्कूल की तरफ से या स्कूल के शासन की तरफ से आप तक पहुंचने की कोई कोशिश की गई? आपसे कोई वार्तालाप या बातचीत करने की कोई एक तरह से उन्होंने इनिशिएटिव ली?
देखो, 18 तारीख को ये 2:30-3 बजे के आसपास इंसिडेंट हुआ। 19 तारीख को सुबह 7:15 बजे हम पुलिस स्टेशन गए थे, राजा गार्डन, केस FIR रजिस्टर करने के लिए। वहां तब तक कोई रजिस्टर भी नहीं हुआ था। इन्होंने 3.5 घंटे लगा दिए, 11:30-12 बजे हमें केस रजिस्टर करके दिया, मतलब FIR रजिस्टर हो गई। तब तक रजिस्टर नहीं की थी। और जो वहां पे केस स्टेटमेंट ले रहे थे, वो टीचर्स के नाम लिखने के लिए मना कर रहे थे हमें। वो हमें समझ नहीं आया, क्यों बोलते ये एविडेंस एकदम नहीं माना जाता, ऐसा थोड़ी ना होता है, हम इन्वेस्टिगेशन करेंगे। मैंने बोला स्टेटमेंट मेरा है, ये आपने मेरा स्टेटमेंट लेना है, अगर आपको ऐसा लगता है तो फिर खुद ही बना दो। मेरा स्टेटमेंट लिखना है कि मैं जो बोल रहा हूँ, बच्चे के नोट्स मिले वो लिखो आप। तो उन्होंने 11:30-12 बजे FIR लिखी। उसके बाद कोई पुलिस स्टेशन का कोई कार्रवाई नहीं हुआ। उसी दिन शाम को जब FIR की रजिस्ट्री, जब आप लोग मीडिया के पास पहुंची, तो 4 बजे मेरे पास ब्रदर का फोन आया था, और ब्रदर ने ये बोला था कि आपको जो हेल्प चाहिए तो हम आपको हेल्प करने के लिए तैयार है, और हम आपके साथ हैं। मैंने बोला सर मुझे कोई हेल्प नहीं चाहिए, मुझे मेरा बेटा वापस चाहिए। उनको पता था, मुझे भी पता, आपको पता, वो बेटा वापस नहीं आ सकता। लेकिन हमने उनको ये बोला कि हम स्कूल में बच्चे भेजते हैं, पेरेंट्स आपका स्कूल पढ़ाने के लिए, एजुकेटेड करने के लिए, देश का भविष्य बनाने के लिए भेजते हैं। आपने कत्ल खाना थोड़ी ना खोला है कि बच्चों को इस तरह से आप बिहेव करोगे। उनके पास कोई वर्ड्स नहीं थे। हाँ, उन्होंने फोन रखा था। उसके बाद अभी तक हमारे पास कोई स्कूल की तरफ से कोई कॉन्टेक्ट नहीं है। पुलिस स्टेशन को मैंने कल फोन किया था, जो SHO है उनको, उनके भी जो वर्डिंग थी वो भी हमें कोई सही नहीं लगी। आप बच्चों पे, अपना फैमिली पे ध्यान दीजिए, बच्चों का जो करे, हम अपना काम करेंगे। मैंने बोला अभी तक बच्चों के स्टेटमेंट रिकॉर्ड किए? बोलते अभी नहीं किया, हमारी टीम जाएगी करने। तो आज चौथा दिन है, 3 दिन हो गए, ना बच्चों के कोई स्टेटमेंट कल तक रिकॉर्ड नहीं हुए थे, ना टीचर्स के रिकॉर्ड हुए थे, कुछ भी नहीं हुआ था।
सर, आपको लगता है कि स्कूल कहीं ना कहीं अपने ओहदे का, अपनी पावर का इस्तेमाल करने की कोशिश करेगा कि इस केस को दबाया जाए? और दूसरी तरफ दिल्ली सरकार ने तो संज्ञान ले ही लिया है इस पूरे मामले का। एजुकेशन मिनिस्टर आशीष सूद ने भी कहा है कि इस मामले की तह तक पहुंचेंगे हम। आपकी क्या अपेक्षा है, क्या एक्सपेक्टेशन है सिस्टम से आपको?
देखो, मुझे आशीष सूद जी का भी अभी फोन आया था, लगभग 7:30-8 बजे मेरी बात भी हुई थी। उनको भी मैंने ये चीजें बोली हैं कि मुझे ऐसा कहीं ना कहीं लगता है कि ये हमारे साथ ही क्यों बच्चों के साथ ऐसा किया गया है, ये कि कहीं ये मिशनरी स्कूल जानबूझ के तो नहीं कर रहे ऐसा। तो उनको भी बोला है, उन्होंने भी फोन किया है, तो अभी देखते हैं, उम्मीद करते हैं, क्योंकि आज दिन भर जो स्कूल का कल दिन भी स्कूल का जो बिहेव था वो बहुत गलत था। कल जब कुछ पेरेंट्स ने प्रोटेस्ट किया था तो 2 बंदे स्कूल में मिलने के लिए गए थे। उसमें से जब इन्होंने बोला ऐसा आप टीचर्स को सस्पेंड करने की बात बोला, तो जो प्रिंसिपल थी उसका जो रिप्लाई था आप सुन के खुद हैरान हो जाओगे। उन्होंने बोला था कि ऐसा कोई भी किसी का भी नाम लिख के सुसाइड करेगा तो हम ऐसा थोड़ी ना तुरंत एक्शन लेंगे, हमें भी इन्वेस्टिगेशन करना पड़ेगा। तो जो लेडी अंदर गई थी उन्होंने ये बोला था कि आप एक काम करो सर, आपके बच्चे को एक मार दो और मेरा नाम लिखो सुसाइड में। मतलब इतने लोग भी गुस्से में थे, लेकिन उनके टीचर के ऊपर या प्रिंसिपल के ऊपर कोई भी थोड़ा भाई फर्क नहीं है।
सर आपने एक बहुत बड़ी बात बोली आपने कहा कि ये मिशनरी स्कूल है और शायद इसी वजह से एक ऐसा माहौल क्रिएट किया जा रहा है। इसके क्या मायने थे, आप क्या कहना चाह रहे थे?
आप खुद समझदार हो, हमने ऐसा नहीं बोलना चाहिए, लेकिन थोड़ा मेरा प्रोफाइल आप चेक करेंगे, थोड़ा सा मेरा हिंदुत्ववादी प्रोफाइल है, बी फ्रैंक। तो मुझे नहीं पता कि उन्होंने ऐसा क्यों किया है, क्या उनका क्या सोच है क्या नहीं है। अगर गूगल पे भी सर्च करते तो पता चलता है, लेकिन जानबूझ के तो देखो, बच्चे ने होमवर्क नहीं किया, बच्चे ने मिमिक्री की, बच्चे ने डांस किया या बच्चे ने बातें करी, ये कोई बच्चे को टॉर्चर करने के लिए पॉइंट्स नहीं होते। और उनको पता है अभी 10 दिन के लिए स्कूल बचा है, फिर भी उसको ये कह रहे कि आप टीसी दे रहे हो, टीसी दे देंगे, टीसी दे देंगे। मैंने मेरे बच्चे की फीस फर्स्ट क्वार्टर में पूरे साल के एडवांस, तो उसको किस लिए ये करेंगे, ये मुझे बताइए। 10 बच्चे हैं आपके स्कूल के, आप बच्चे को क्यों बोलते हो कि हम तेरा टीसी दे देंगे? अच्छा, बच्चा आपको कह रहा है कि मेरे पास सुसाइड थॉट्स आ रहे हैं, तो आपका फर्ज नहीं बनता कि आपने किसी को बुला के पेरेंट्स से बात करनी चाहिए कि आपका बच्चा ऐसा क्यों बोल रहा है, आपके घर पे कोई परेशानी है क्या, हमारे से कोई परेशानी का बोलना चाहिए था उन्होंने।
प्रदीप जी, आपने हमसे बातचीत करी, आपने हिम्मत दिखाई इस मुश्किल घड़ी में भी हमारे से ये डिटेल्स आपने सारी शेयर करी, उसके लिए आपका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद और हमसे बातचीत करने के लिए भी आपका बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया। All right, we'll continue to talk about this, and some of the things that have been said here will definitely be discussed with our guests. Joining me on the show at this point in time is Ashwini Dubey, advocate on record, Supreme Court. Dr. C.B. Mishra, Director Principal of Prudence School, is also with us on the program. Mr. Sanjay Sahai, former IPS, also joins this debate. Ashwini, I'll begin with you. You know, if you were listening attentively to what the deceased father had to say, there's some very strong allegations that have come about from what the father is saying. Of course, one is that comment he made about St. Columbus being a missionary school and targeting or profiling students because of their background. And secondly, he also went on to say that when he went to the police station to register a complaint, the suicide note in itself was being negated and being dismissed as being a document which will not qualify in the courts. Can you shed some light on what you have heard? I'm still shaken and little taken aback with the conversation that I've just had with Mr. Pradeep Patil.
Vinit bhai, when any cognizable offence, that too of this nature, happens, then the statement made by the witnesses, that to the father, his friends, are taken prima facie to be true. So prima facie, this should have been...
This deceased left a letter, and the police said that how can we believe it?
And police, the role of the police in this case shows that they are completely negligent about the death of a child. This shows the lawlessness. This shows that how they are caring about the death of a child, 16-year-old child. And that too, when father is saying that you record my statement, that's a bad day. I would not say that the country is running with the constitution. The police, when there was a duty bound to at the first instance, immediately should have taken, it's a cognizable offense, immediately should have taken cognizance of it and have reached to the police station. Because in criminal law, Vinit bhai, each and every second is important, because the destruction of evidence at every second in the criminal law there are chances of its destruction, and accused may destroy it. That is why the police should immediately take stock of it. But here, see the insensitive statement of the police officials of the jurisdictional police station, number one. Number two, Vineet Bhai making a specific statement, specific averment saying that school being the missionary school. Why can't be an investigation on these lines when the specific statement is being made? Third, Vineet Bhai, the schools follow the protocol. Schools, this Right to Education Act says that no one should be discriminated. Even our the Constitution says, international law says, international law article 28 subclause 2 of the UNCRC requires the state parties, schools to take all appropriate measures to ensure that school discipline is administered and none of the child is bullied. What is happening when classmates are saying that boy was being bullied by the teachers? At the first instance, the counselor, before whom the statement was made by the child itself, that I am being bullied, I am facing the discrimination, I am facing the targeted harassment, but the counselor completely neglected it. To Vineet Bhai, this it's not a minor issue, it's a very serious issue. When he reached to the principal, what principal said? Principal said, ऐसे होता रहता है, हम कैसे? That's also see the insensitive statement of the principal, that how they are caring about the children. You may understand what kind of nurturing they are getting. Third, law will take its own course. The BNS under section 108 offence has been registered. Whosoever would be found guilty, of course, shall be subject to the law of the land. But the question here is, if somebody has died by writing a letter, that should be taken at the first instance as a suicide letter. And the names mentioned in the suicide letter are the prima facie accused in this matter. But despite that, what kind of investigation? At the first instance, they should have been arrested. Then the second, the investigation should have been proceeded with. This is the law. There are senior IPS officer, Mr. Sahai also, he would also agree to it. But making this kind of a statement, Vineet Bhai, shows that in national capital territory of Delhi, the police officials are least bothered about the death of a child. Third, Vineet Bhai, the Constitution, Article 19(1) of the Constitution says, asks the states to take appropriate legislative, administrative, social, educational measures to protect the child from all forms of physical and international violence. Still that, Article 21 of our Constitution, which self protects the right to life and dignity, 21A provides that the state shall provide free compulsory education as well as schools shall nurture to the child. What nurturing is here when 10 days are left? Targeted harassment. Vineet Bhai, I must say, there is a need to have a guidelines, and specific, there are no specific guidelines. Guidelines which are in tune with the international standards that are not being followed. Over to you, Vineet Bhai.
Right, absolutely. Valid points there. Dr. Mishra, how are you looking at this case? This is obviously an extremely sensitive matter. It is also a matter which can break, the reputation that a particular school has had for decades now. Do you think there was a certain type of lapse which the teachers thought or the staff thought would never go out of control, and it did?
Definitely, and as per the father's statement and whatever the video I had watched, in that ground, I can say there is some lapse is there regarding the teacher's behavior also. One of the lapses is there. But one point we are supposed to check it out also, the mental harassment or mental psychological test we are supposed to take. And we have only the one counselor, the two counselors in the schools basically. So when we say to mental checkup or mental health checkup, that is one of the important part that is missing in the school structure. Mental stress regarding the examination policy, regarding the education system, we require, our system is basically believe in the marks, where our system is not coming out as per the national education policy. We are not supposed to focus on the marks, as the parent is also saying the same word. But the teacher and the parents, other parents is also supposed to take what steps next, and why we are sending the students. If the parent is saying going to the school, to the missionary schools, first of all, these missionary schools are not only the missionary schools, all the caste students are there. The statements, I am not accepting that statement, because the child has taken the admission not in the 10th class. Maybe he is an old student and his other friends are also saying the same thing. And they have a very good relation with the parents also, other parents also. That's why all the parents have came out for the protest also. It means something happened in the school which creates this understanding among the, you can say, the counselor not taken serious. If the child is saying, yeah, I'm going to do these things, the counselor is supposed to take the serious statement and they are supposed to stop. As per the one of the video what I am watching, कि ही सेज कि मैंने अपने दोस्त को सुना, वो काउंसलर के पास गया एंड ही सेइंग कि मैडम मैं सुसाइड कर लूँगा. So that statement should be taken very seriously. The teacher are supposed to take this seriously, and they supposed to take कि उस child को not going to go home directly, and they call their parents also. Calling the parents is also one of the important part. Mental checkup, mental harassment is one of the mental stress is one of the main important part. The parents, society, and the school, both we all are one part basically. Blaming is a one another things,
Fair
but we
enough.
all are.
Fair enough.
Yes.
Let me also rope in Mr. Sanjay Sahai into this conversation. Mr. Sahai, the father was obviously, pained with the way the police was also insensitive towards this entire episode that, of course, no parent would want to see.
To start from the beginning, we are a part of a completely unsympathetic system, whether it's the police or it's the school administration. If a child openly declares that he has suicidogenic impulse, and at that particular point in time, the school management, the counselors, nobody reacts. I cannot fathom out whether these people are even human beings or not. Leave aside running a school, not running a school is concerned. And it is going on for how long? It is going on for around a year. And this boy has consistently complained as to what the issues are. It has been brought to the notice of literally anybody and everybody, inclusive of the principal of the school. I have studied in Delhi. I know the reputation of St. Columbus School very well. And I find it extremely, I am distraught and I am finding it very difficult to believe that this is the nature of teachers which are there. And when we are talking of the mental health issue, I think first and foremost, the mental health of the teachers and the school management has to be tested, because they are not fit. If whatever is there in the public domain, I don't think they are fit to handle students. Mental health sensitization for every single individual who is handling a child on a regular basis, nearly on a 10-hour, 12-hour duration every single day. I think that sort of empathy is completely missing. Teachers are the same, the principal is the same, the headmistress is the same. And now finally when you are coming to the police, I think a suicide note, Mr. Ashwini Chaubey will bail me out. It is a dying declaration, it is an irrefutable evidence. And police has absolutely no role to play around with it, but to register a case and move ahead, and they don't have any discretion to arrest, at what time to arrest. They are duty bound to arrest. So broadly, that is one part of the story. And taking the story slightly further from Mr. Chaubey, we have July 2025 Supreme Court judgment which recognizes mental health as a fundamental part of the right to life under Article 21 of the Indian Constitution. That is where we stand. We have a mental health policy of 2014. Not only limited to that, we have a national suicide prevention strategy of 2022. Suffice to say that everything is in namesake. One side we see the bomb blast there, and one side we see this. There are any number of things where we find that the regulatory and the executive mechanism are literally on paper. That is precisely where we are. And every time we show a huge amount of surprise and we feign ignorance of whatever is happening in reality. Coming to the counselor part of it. The counselors were appointed so that they are objective, empirical, and they come to the assistance of the kids. It is not for maintaining a document, maintaining a register, or even maintaining some sort of a compliance mechanism. That 2 counselors will be employed by every school. This is precisely what is happening, and the counselor does not jump out of her chair, his chair. When the child says that he has a suicidogenic impulse and does not take the child to his home or gets the parents and remains with the child till the time the person is taken to a clinical psychologist for further treatment.
Fair enough,
I don't know
sir.
what sort of schools they are running.
That's the question. That's in fact the question that we have for today. What kind of a school was being run that it instead of instilling confidence and hope and education into a student, it made that student take his own life. We have run out of time, but appreciate everybody who joined in and weighed in this serious matter. We'll take a short break now. Be right back.
देना वो वाली MDH की सुपर हिट
जिन्होंने यूज किया है वो जानते हैं असली हींग का स्वाद।
MDH सुपर हींग, शुद्धता का असली तड़का।
असली मसाले सच सच MDH।
Now it's not just the parents but the kids themselves are going and looking for partners.
Where you meet and where you vibe and who you feel like, is going to be your partner.
It could be a state ID. So they upload that. So at least the basics of their age, their first and last name and their gender. So at least that on AnviMet, we are sure what we are getting.
You need to have a validation on the background check. You need to know what about his earnings. Watch We Women Want at these times on Newsx.
सस्ते वाले दाल मसाले स्वाद हुआ बेकार। MDH की हल्दी मिर्ची धनिया करे कमाल। ये रंग दे, ये खुशबू दे, ये तीखा, ये कम पड़े। क्या निराला MDH मसाला।
मेहनत और समर्पण के प्रतीक अन्नदाताओं को डबल इंजन सरकार ने दी है नई पहचान। कर्मयोगी सरकार ने किया है वो दमदार काम जो दशकों तक था सिर्फ सपना। उत्कर्ष के इन 8 वर्षों में गन्ना किसानों को किया गया है रिकॉर्ड 2,90,000 करोड़ रुपए से अधिक गन्ना मूल्य का भुगतान। वर्ष 2007 से 2017 तक हुए भुगतान से यह 1,48,000 करोड़ रुपए है अधिक। माननीय मुख्यमंत्री योगी आदित्यनाथ के नेतृत्व में पारदर्शिता और तकनीक से जुड़ी नई व्यवस्था ने बदली है गन्ना किसानों की तकदीर। वर्ष 2017 से अब तक 4 बार बढ़ाया गया है गन्ना समर्थन मूल्य। गन्ना पेराई सत्र 2025-26 में गन्ना किसानों को होगा 3,000 करोड़ रुपए से अधिक का अतिरिक्त लाभ। नई चीनी मिलें और बढ़ी क्रशिंग क्षमता ने असल मायनों में गन्ने की फसल को बनाया है ग्रीन गोल्ड। काम दमदार, डबल इंजन सरकार। दादी के हाथों का जादू और खुशबू से महकता घर। MDH गरम मसाला, असली मसालों से भरा हूँ मैं,
क्योंकि हर रिश्ता है स्वाद से जुड़ा।
Now it's not just the parents but the kids themselves are going and looking for partners.
Where you meet and where you vibe and who you feel like, is going to be your partner.
It could be a state ID. So they upload that. So at least the basics of their age, their first and last name and their gender. So at least that on AnviMet, we are sure what we are getting.
You need to have a validation on the background check. You need to know what about his earnings. Watch We Women Want at these times on Newsx.
MDH का किचन किंग किचन में हो तो हम सब कुछ बना सकते हैं। बैंगन का भरता, आलू गोभी, भिंडी मसाला और भी बहुत कुछ।
MDH।
Now it's not just the parents but the kids themselves are going and looking for partners.
Where you meet and where you vibe and who you feel like, is going to be your partner.
It could be a state ID.